Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talkin Mets at Rob with another Mets live stream here during a Mets game. Hopefully everybody is doing good today on this Wednesday, September 20th. Guys, we're almost done with the 2023 season, 11 games to go. The Mets are trying to be spoilers of the 2023 playoffs with the remaining schedule of playing the Marlins and the Phillies for the rest of the stretch of the season. We'll see if the Mets can take the series in Miami with Kodai Senga on the mound, who is looking to get more Cy Young votes. I don't know if he's going to win it. Most likely not, but he's been a lot better than I think a lot of people expected for his first season. Under a 3 ERA. I mean, he can literally finish with an under 3 ERA, and I think that's a big deal for Mets fans to see that he pitched this well this year. I think that's extremely important. And on top of that, knowing going forward, who knows what the Mets are going to do with the rotation, with the bullpen, with the lineup. But we do know one thing for sure. You can trust Kodai Senga going into 2024. I think that's, for the most part, a guarantee, as much as you can give a guarantee in 2024. Again, minus injuries and stuff like that. But at the very least, we do know that the New York Mets can be spoilers in the 2023 season, and why not spoil the playoff hopes of the Miami Marlins, who have basically destroyed our hopes for a couple of years, many years now. You know, we know about 07 and 08. The Marlins were a big part of that, and it's about time the Mets return that favor when it comes to the New York Mets knocking them out of the playoffs, and that would be nice. And let's be honest, the Mets have the opportunity to do so. All they have left on the schedule is the Marlins and the Phillies. Now, it would be even sweeter if we knock out the Phillies as well, but the Phillies are pretty good amount of games ahead in the first wild card. I mean, the Mets probably have to sweep them out of their remaining games together to at least knock them out of the first wild card spot. But I have no problem knocking them out of the first wild card spot and making him be the second or third wild card team. You know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And you know, we're seeing a lot of good signs from the youngsters, from the prospects, and Mauricio and Vientos in particular. Brett Beatty is getting a start tonight, as you see in the lineup on the side. This is all we have to look forward to at the moment until the offseason comes and we get David Stearns in and see exactly what he wants to do. But there was news that came out today, and it's before David Stearns is taking over, even though we all know communication is happening probably at this moment when it's regards to Pete Alonso and his contract extension, as we saw multiple reports today that the Mets and Pete Alonso are basically on the same page financially, but it's the amount of years that they're not on agreement with, which I think always was going to be somewhat of an issue. I don't think the Mets want to give more than 7. And if you're Pete Alonso and his agent, of course you're going to ask for 8 or 9 or even 10, right? I think that just makes sense. So if the financial aspect is not the problem and they're on the same page, I think we're okay. I think it's going to get worked out, even if it is sometimes during the playoffs when that extension actually happens. So I think everybody can take a sigh of relief. Whoever thought that the Mets actually really were going to trade Pete Alonso, which I don't think was more media driven than anything else, because we got to remember the story. The Mets didn't call teams about Pete Alonso. Teams called the Mets about Pete Alonso, and you're not doing your job as a GM to not listen. If you don't listen, you're not doing your job. So we all know the Brewers and the Cubs were the two most aggressive teams calling the Mets about Pete Alonso. And we know about the Brewers where there was names exchanged. And again, Billy Epler and the Mets are not doing their job if they don't actually listen. You don't hang up the phone, because all that does, it also gives you ammunition in the negotiations as well, saying, hey, listen, this is what other teams think of you. And, you show the package to Pete Alonso, like, look, this is what another team thinks of you. And again, I think this was more media driven, where there was no stories and no real news coming out of the Mets because they were basically out of it after the deadline. So the media, to get clicks, to get people reading their stories, they need a negative story. And what better way to make a negative story when it came to Pete Alonso and the New York Mets being toxic, bad clubhouse, and all that crazy stuff that went along with it. So with that said, I think this is going to get done, if not by the end of the season, definitely during the playoffs. Because if it's only years that are not on the same page and being worked out, I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief when it comes to Pete Alonso and the New York Mets coming up with the contract extension, because the money's not the issue. So the total amount of money is probably whatever it is, they're on the same page with. It's just, so if they're with the total amount of money they agree upon right now, they're on the same page. That means the per year is already decided and already figured out, at least for the most part. It's just the years that I think is going to be a little bit of back and forth. I think they're going to come to a middle ground, and the Mets probably want 7. Pete Alonso probably wants 9, and I think they're going to come to an agreement on 8. And I think that will be fine. Again, money, I don't really care how much, to be honest with you. I'm more concerned about the years. 8 years is probably the most I would go. I think it would be, I don't think he should get 9 years or more. He's not 27, 26 years old, where you're not really worried about the 34, 35-year-old Pete Alonso. You got to be worrying about the 38, 37, 38-year-old Pete Alonso going into the future. But a lot of people that were worried that the Mets weren't going to sign him, there's two things that David Stearns, and I know David Stearns is not officially the president of baseball ops yet, but we all know the communications are happening between Stearns and the Mets. 2 things that is big with David Stearns: analytics and power. That's the 2 things. I mean, you can actually put 3 is pitching as well. David Stearns is very analytically driven. He loves pitching and he loves power. That's the 3 things you know that David Stearns loves, because if you look at the Brewers, a lot of those guys don't hit for high averages. They hit a lot of home runs, and they're very analytically driven when it comes to, launch angle and all that other nonsense that I don't like, but it's been working in Milwaukee. Even though they don't have a championship to show for it, they've been consistently, for the most part, in the playoffs during his tenure. And I think that's something that you have to look at if you're the Mets and say, all right, David, what type of brilliance and what type of information that you've been using with the Brewers that has been working if you're the Mets? Sorry about the camera. And put it into fruition and have a competitive team in 2024 and beyond. So we'll see how that goes. Michael says, as long as it doesn't turn into an untradeable contract, I'm all for it. Well, Michael, I mean, you can't think of it that way because if the Mets are going to sign Pete Alonso to a long-term deal, they're never trading Pete Alonso. They're making him a franchise, a face of the franchise player officially in a contract, and he's probably going to play out the rest of his career as a New York Met. So an untradeable contract, I mean, that's all teams give now, especially big market teams. That's all they give. The Bogarts is not a tradable contract. The Tatis Jr. in a couple of years won't be a tradable contract. The Aaron Judge contract is not tradable. This is what teams do now. Big market teams. They get the big deals to these players, and and again, Pete Alonso is going to have a no trade clause in his contract. I can guarantee you that. If Francisco Lindor was able to get a no trade clause, Pete Alonso is going to get it as well. I guarantee you they're negotiating that into his contract. So I'm not going to go. I don't really care if it's a tradable contract or not. There's not a lot of teams that's going to want a 35, 36-year-old Pete Alonso if he's not doing the job with the Mets. Why would another team want him with that money? Again, no matter what, he's going to get at the very least 7 years. It's already an untradeable contract. You can't worry about an untradeable contract because you can never make a deal with a player if you're worried about trading him down the road. I think that's a bad way to do business. It might benefit the team only, but if you want the player and if you want to keep the player, sometimes you have to go a little bit out of your comfort zone to do what you need to do to keep that player around. And you think if the Mets come out and say, well, we couldn't sign Pete Alonso because we wanted to give this deal because we know it can be tradable at some point, Met fans are going to go up in arms, and it just doesn't make sense. And if you're signing Pete Alonso to a long-term deal, you expect him to be here for the rest of his career, not because you have a deal that can be tradable in the future. That shouldn't be the least. That shouldn't be in your mind, because what you want is to have an extension of Pete Alonso and maybe a couple of World Series to add to that entire package as well. So, if year 6, 7, and 8 are a disaster, but you have a World Series or possibly 2, then I think we can all live with it, to be honest with you. At least I will be okay. So the Mets are facing the Marlins the last game of the series. The Mets are looking to take 2 out of 3 against the Marlins and continue to be spoilers of the remainder of the schedule. The Mets are 70-81. We're seeing if Pete Alonso can hit 50 home runs. We want to see Vientos and Mauricio continue to play well. We know the Mets lost on a walk-off last night, unfortunately, for, I guess, the Mets, or at least anybody that actually cares about wins or losses. The Mets are right on the line of getting a top 6 pick, and we know the deal with that. The Mets get a top 6 pick in the draft. They don't move down 10 spots in the draft because of the luxury tax penalties and going over a certain amount of money. So they're right on that borderline. And last time I checked, I think they're 1 game behind the Angels. They're 7th right now. So they're hovering around with 11 games to go. There's a lot of people saying, hey, let's look at the draft pick here, because it would suck if the Mets get the 7th pick of the draft, and that's where they end up, and they drop down 10 spots, and now they're picking 17th instead of 6th, right? If they're 6th, that would be great. But unfortunately for us, players are trying to win when they're on the field. So they're showing Kodai Senga's stats for the year: 2.97 ERA and 27 starts. I mean, he's been out just great. I mean, better than anybody I think expected for the first year with the Mets, and I think he's only going to get better. He's more comfortable now. He's learning to pitch every 5th day now. He's been the Mets' best pitcher, even when Scherzer and Verlander were here still. And, having an under 3 ERA to end the season, which would be nice, it gives you a lot of confidence as, at the very least, being your number 2 going forward in 2024, which I think is very important for the Mets, because now they can look at it in a way where, like, all right, we can get Yamamoto, and that can be your 1-2. And again, a lot of people looking at Blake Snell. Again, guys, look at his stat. People just look at his ERA and be like, oh, my God, look how great he is. But then if you go a little bit further, he walks a ton of people. He does not go deep in games. He's never gone 8 innings in his career. And that's something I don't want to give 150, 175, maybe even $200 million contract to a guy like Blake Snell. And he's been often injured prior to this year and not as good. And I always worry about a pitcher that has a career year and probably going to win the Cy Young on a contract year. That's a very dangerous game to play. And I don't like that he doesn't go more than 8. He never gone 8 innings in his career. He's more of a 5-inning pitcher for the most part. If you look at a lot of his starts, he is mostly out of the game in the 5th inning and sometimes occasionally in the 6th inning. He's not a guy that goes deep. And that worries me if you're going to give a guy a $200 million contract. And I don't think he's going to be as good as he is this year again. And I don't trust him not being injured going forward because in his career, at least over the last couple of years, he's been injured and not as good. And in a contract year, he amazingly stays healthy and is having a Cy Young year. That scares me with Blake Snell. So, I'd rather go a different route. I still think the Mets are going to look to trade for Corbin Burnes. And with David Stearns running the Mets, I think he knows a lot what's going on with the Corbin Burnes Brewers situation. And I think Corbin Burnes is going to be on the trading block. And the Mets now have pieces to actually trade and not hurt their farm system. I think that's something to look out for during the offseason. Corbin Burnes trade market. I think that's going to pop up very early in the offseason. And I think the Mets are going to be one of the teams in on Corbin Burnes because I think the Brewers are going to trade him because they can get more for him in the offseason than they will at the trade deadline as being a 2-month rental instead of a 1-year rental. And obviously the Mets can actually extend Corbin Burnes if they really wanted to. So we are waiting for the Mets and Marlins to start. We got a couple of minutes until game time. Let's look at the pitching matchup, which is Kodai Senga against Yuri Perez of the Marlins, and the Mets lineup for tonight. Michael, let me just before that 221 average has to get better. That's for sure. As for Snell, he hasn't proven to be worth what he'd be asking for. I agree. And the thing with Pete Alonso, I mean, you can really look at it as an off year average wise because in his career he's a 253 hitter. So I think this year was just a year where you just got too many at bats at this point now. It's hard to raise your average 30 more points to his career average. He's a 250 career hitter, Pete Alonso. So to 221, I'm not going to put too much into that, but you are right. He needs to bat at least 250 with all these home runs and all these RBIs to really be comfortable with Pete Alonso going forward because you can't bat 220, 215, and yet the home runs and RBIs are great, but that means you're either striking out or hitting home runs most of the time. And I'm not concerned about the average because he is a 250 career hitter. So let me give up the lineup before the game starts. Brandon Nimmo leading off, playing in center field. Francisco Lindor batting second, playing shortstop. DJ Stewart playing right field, batting third. Pete Alonso cleaning up, playing first base. Jeff McNeil batting fifth and playing left field. Ronnie Mauricio playing second base, batting sixth. Brett Beatty getting the start. Back in the lineup, playing third base, batting seventh. Mark Vientos, DH and batting eighth. And Omar Narvaez is catching, batting ninth. And I want to say one thing about a couple of the prospects. We see how good Ronnie Mauricio is. We see how better Mark Vientos has been over the last, I would say, 3 weeks. Brett Beatty still has been struggling. Has been dealing with an injury. We're talking about average here, as we talked about it with Pete Alonso. But Francisco Alvarez, average is down dramatically. And he's another one that, he could probably hit 35 home runs easily, but we need him to bat 250 as well. I think that's important. We got to put the bat on the ball because you can't just be a high strikeout home run guy and not putting the bat on the ball anywhere else. And that concerns me a little bit with Francisco Alvarez because the league has figured him out. And if he doesn't hit a home run, he usually strikes out. And that's concerning as well. But I think going forward, he's going to get better. I trust Francisco Alvarez. We just have to wait and see. Yeah, Michael, I agree. The lineup has to be better average-wise. Look, there's no mistake that the Mets, with their 101 wins last year, the big reason why they were so good offensively last year and were just a pain in the ass to the opposition was because they had Jeff McNeil batting, 30 points above 300, and Starlin Marte batting 300, and Alonso having a career average year, and Lindor the same thing. A lot of these guys were batting 260 or higher throughout the lineup, and I think that was important. And now you see a lot of the guys 220, 230, 250, and not much more than that. And I think McNeil's at like 276, and that's not cutting it. You need McNeil to be over 300. That's what is going to help this team going forward. So I'm going to share my screen and game day. Just give me a second, guys. When the game starts, I'll put the audio up so you can listen to the game as well. Just give me a second. Let me just share my screen, and we'll get ready for Mets and Marlins. Alrighty. Just give me a second, guys. Gonna fix this in a second. Just waiting for why I'm sharing it. Come on. There we go. That's what I like to see. All right, guys. Just give me a second. The game's about to start. The Marlins are going onto the field. All righty. Give me a second, guys. I'm just putting it together before the game starts, and we'll be ready to go. It should be setting up right now, and we'll be ready to go. Mets Marlins, game 152 of the season. Let's give it a second, guys. Alrighty. Almost there. There we go. Should be ready to go. All right, guys. So the game's about to start. Let me put up the audio, and you guys let me know in the comments to make sure you can hear the audio.
That's a very late lineup scratch. I mean, within the last 2 minutes, DJ Stewart was taken out of the lineup, and the Mets reconfigured their batting order as a result.
All right. So if you just heard, DJ Stewart was scratched from the lineup last minute, about a couple of minutes ago. So the lineup is going to be reconfigured. So we'll see what the lineup is once the game starts.
The Reds and Giants have lost. That might have finished off the Giants. Arizona beating San Francisco again today. But the Marlins a half game behind the Cubs, who have their ace Justin Steele on the mound tonight against the Pirates. Meanwhile, the Marlins go with their 20-year-old right-hander Perez to try and keep them going. Brandon Nimmo leads off. 3 hits last
All right.
night.
Let me know in the comments, guys, if you can hear it.
He takes a fastball for a strike from Perez, and we're underway. Yuri Perez in his 7th start since returning from the minors, 0-2 with a 4.11 ERA. He hasn't been able to get very deep into games. His last time out against Milwaukee went 4 2/3, allowed 3 runs, 5 hits. Hasn't thrown more than 93 pitches in any big league game this year. He's been quite the phenomenon. He was the talk of spring training down in Florida, and there was a chance that he might have even made the ball club coming out of spring at age 19, but they held him back for about a month and a half, and he made his big league debut on May the 12th. Ronnie Mauricio on deck, and then Pete Alonso for the Mets in the first. And Nimmo hits a cutbacker past the mound.
And that's a leadoff base hit for Nimmo.
So the Mets reconfigured lineup. Stewart was going to bat third. They moved Mauricio up to the 2 spot. They moved Lindor down to the cleanup spot. Rafael Ortega in the lineup was not originally in. Vientos is 8. Red Beatty back in the lineup for the first time in a week, coming back from the groin injury. And Narvaez batting 9th. So here's Mauricio. 2 for 9 in this series. And Ronnie takes up an in ball 1. So the 20-year-old rookie on the mound, the 21-year-old rookie at the plate. These are 2 incredibly talented young Dominican ball players going head-to-head in the big leagues. It's an exciting moment for both of them. And the high fastball is fouled back, 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's the most amazing fact about a Yuri Perez game. You're going to love this, okay? His dad, Eddie, is 5'3". His mom, Zianara, is 5'2". And Yuri is 6'8". What happened? Genetics. You just can't trust them. When the Marlins first signed Perez, when he was 16 years old, he was only 6'4", but he kept on growing. He's still a string bean. They say he's probably going to be able to put on 20 more pounds of weight over the next few years.
They got him listed at 220.
It's probably about that. Curveball misses outside. Now he falls behind Mauricio 3-1.
Keeps his fastball down. They say second time through the order, he starts getting up with his breaking stuff in particular.
Well, he gave up the hit on the curveball, and now he's falling behind with curveballs. 3-1 to Mauricio. He gets a fastball, and he fouls it back. 3-2.
Good matchup here with Perez and Mauricio.
Under 3 walks per 9 innings. Almost 11 strikeouts per 9, and he's been more effective against left-hand hitters than against righties. The lefties are hitting just 187 against him. He had 3 straight starts early this year in June when he went 6 scoreless innings. Youngest pitcher ever to do that. Nimmo's running on 3-2, and
Mauricio takes a walk. So the first 2 men on of the game for the Mets. Nimmo on second, Mauricio on first. So just as you tuned in, the lineup was reconfigured, and DJ Stewart was scratched from the lineup a couple of minutes ago, and now the lineup got all mixed up now, and now Pete Alonso is batting third instead of cleanup now.
Keep an eye on the outfield play positioning of Miami. The entire series, they're not doing it now with Pete, of course. They played very shallow, and they got stung last night by it.
So here's Pete, 1 for 7 in this series. He takes a fastball for a strike from Perez. He with 45 home runs, tied for second in the National League with Kyle Schwarber. Under 12 RBI, second behind Olsen. And curveball misses away, and it's 1-1. The Phillies won quite a game today, beating the Braves to take 2 out of 3 in that series. Mets will be in Philadelphia tomorrow night. It was a good stop by Stallings. In the bottom of the ninth, tie game, the Braves had the winning run on third with 1 out, and there was a foul fly hit down the right field line, and Nick Castellanos opted to catch the ball when he could have let it drop. And he threw out the potential winning run at the plate. He said after the game, my brain was telling me, don't catch it, don't catch it, don't catch it. Nonetheless, moment, I decided to catch it. And it worked out perfectly.
Cut the double play, and all they needed was a run to win the ball game, and that's what they got.
They got 2 in the 10th, and they held off the Braves in the bottom of the 10th and won the game 6-5. So it solidified their hold on the number 1 wild card spot. The Mets will see the Phillies for 4 games starting tomorrow night, and then 3 more to close out the season at Citi Field. 1-2 coming to Alonso, and it's up and in. 2-2. Looks as though the Dorgan cleanup is on deck. Aaron's still trying to get settled in, looking for his first out. Trying to put pressure on him early. Nimmo at second, Mauricio at first, and Pete strikes out.
And Alonso strikes out on a slider. 1 out.
And that's the first out.
Pete's been taking a lot of pitches and taking on purpose, and they've been a little bit efficient. He's a little off right now, more than a little.
Just 1 hit in his last 18 at bats. Now Lindor.
1 hit in his last 18 bats for Pete Alonso.
Francisco 2 for 8 in this series. And he takes first pitch, curveball for a strike, 0-1.
Well, the Mets had a similar situation last night in the first inning. It came away empty. They had 2 runners on second and third, nobody out, and didn't play a runner. And that went on to hurt them. Garrett pitched brilliantly out of that first inning.
Showalter said that first inning was the key to the game.
It's such a bad, I don't want to say omen, I can't think of the right word, but when you leave men on base in the first inning, gosh almighty, that golden opportunity to knock a pitcher
I
out,
agree, Elliot.
and you don't do it, it doesn't end up happy.
Trying to avoid that fade again tonight. Lindor fouls back a high fastball. Stays in at 0-2.
Well, there you see his grip. He's like J.R. Richards. That's how J.R. Richards, who was also 6'8", by the way, folks. Great Houston Astro pitcher. He used to just smother the ball with his hands.
Lindor pops it up. So Sanchez gets it to us.
Nimmo will stay at second base, and that's the second out.
Well, this is definitely a microcosm of the season. Getting runners on base, less than 2 outs. Hard pressed to get the runs in.
Neal had 3 more hits last night. It's 5 for 8 in this series. Including that go-ahead home run on Monday night. In fact, Jeff's hit 4 home runs this month. It's the first calendar month he's hit 4 home runs since September of 2020. 3 years ago.
Come on, Jeff.
That's here with 2 out and 2 on. Marlins again tonight playing without their leading man, Luis Ariz, who rolled his ankle when he stepped on a baseball in pregame drills last night. He's still limping around and not available. So they've got John Birdie playing second base tonight. And Neal takes a breaking ball down for ball 1. Rafael Ortega is sitting 6th in the order. He's on deck. And Kodai Senga on watch. Standing back and standing by. There is misses up and away. Ball behind McNeil 2-0.
Now that is, for me, right there here. I was curious to see if Jeff was going to attack a first pitch. It's the first time Perez has pitched against the Mets. No one's seen him. Jeff took the first pitch, a slider, ball 1, and then gets a fastball for ball 2. Now you see 2 of his pitches, his fastball and his slider, and you're 2-0. Go to hit.
And McNeil pops it up, and it should end the inning. And the Mets do not score in the top of the first. Of course, this is what they've done in 2023. Kodai Senga coming on the mound. The Mets get 1 hit in that inning, get the first 2 men on in the inning, and then they don't score. 2023 in a nutshell, guys. So, once again, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. The more likes we get, the more people get the stream at the top of the list, and more people will view it and have be interested in it. So, yep, I know, Michael, I get it. Listen, it's been a season just like that. It doesn't matter, and that's why when people were like, oh, if the Mets didn't do anything at the trade deadline and didn't trade everybody away, it would have been different. Probably not, because then Scherzer would have still probably got hurt, and that would have been a disaster for the team, even though Scherzer can't do anything well in a big game for the Mets at all. So I think the Mets made the right decision. Well, Paul, I don't know if it's sarcasm. I mean, I think there was, I mean, the bigger thing about the Jets with the Cowboy game is that the defense didn't look good for the Jets. I mean, the Cowboys' offense was just going up and down the field. But, yeah, I know. But, I mean, the Cowboys are better than both of those teams, including the Jets, at least without Rodgers. So, Alien, I don't know about that. We'll see what the Braves do in the playoffs, all right? They dominate the divisions for years and years and years. And, again, when they dominated in the 90s, they have one World Series to show for it. And there's no reason why that can't be the same thing going forward, Because I think their starting pitching is a bit suspect. And, even the guys that start, some of them don't have no postseason experience. And the guy that they're counting on in Fried hasn't had a really good postseason record. So let's see what Kodai Senga can do in the bottom of the first.
That was a successful one. He beat the Marlins that night. Beat them again next week at Citi Field, and he was off and running. Jorge Soler leads off. So they're 36 home runs this year to lead Miami. He takes Cutter out of the strike zone. It's 2-0. So they're 1 for 6 in this series. He walked 3 times.
Yeah, I know Strider. And, you listen to, Braves fans about Strider. He's a high strikeout guy. But that's basically all he is. Like, he's not winning the Cy Young. He's a very high strikeout guy, and that's basically it. He has too many games where he gives up a ton of runs.
In any start this season, 37% of the time. There's the first one of the night. It bounces to the backstop. We've seen other starts where he's thrown it far less. We'll see what he does to attack this Marlins team tonight. A team that is pretty impatient.
Yeah, Paul, exactly. It's basically a exact carbon copy of last night.
He fires a cutter for a strike, and it's 3-2.
I mean, for all the hype of Strider, he has a 3.73 ERA today, as of today. So, I'm sorry, you can't be considered one of the better pitchers in baseball when you have a 3.73 ERA, especially when your team has dominated the league, basically. And Kodai Senga gives the leadoff walk.
Proceeding down the line. He tricked us the first couple times here. That's his 63rd walk of the year. That's pretty good. The third time this season, Senga's walked the first batter of the game. Jazz Chisholm was 0 for 8 in this series and has struck out in 4 of those 8 at-bats. And he takes a cutter at his feet for ball 1. Chisholm had a home run against Senga. Early this season, he's 1 for 5 against him. Beatty playing it on the grass at third against Chisholm's speed. Senga a little bit off. This is with a fastball. It's 2-0. So he's falling behind the first 2 hitters. That'll get you biting your nails. That last start against Arizona, Senga was as good as he's been all year. 10 strikeouts in 6 dominant innings. Fastball for a strike, and it's 2-1. His last 12 starts now, he's got a 2.32 ERA, and with that, injected himself right in the middle of the Rookie of the Year and Cy Young conversation. Although Corbin Carroll had himself a huge day today for Arizona in their win, he went 4 for 5 with a home run and became the first rookie ever to reach 25 homers and 50 steals in his rookie season. And as far as the Cy Youngs, Blake Snell might have wrapped that up last night with 7 hitless innings with the Padres against Colorado. Snell is on an historic stretch. In his last 20 starts, he's allowed 19 runs and struck out 179. No pitcher in history has ever had a 20-game stretch in which he's allowed only 19 runs and struck out 179. And Snell might well get his second Cy Young as a result. But Senga will get votes. That's pulled to the right side. Grab by Mauricio.
It might be a double play. Almost. Nice play by Mauricio. But gets the force out at second. And almost got Chisholm at first, but got the first out and the lead runner. That was a nice play by Mauricio on a shot by Chisholm. Nice way. Went to his left. Quick throw. Nice play.
Just got good, solid hands. I like how he doesn't rush. Ball's hit hard, makes the pivot, doesn't throw it through the first ball. Even the throw's off. He really impressed me in his third base play the first 2 games in this series. Almost at 101 miles off the bat. So 1 out of 1 on. Now last night's hero, Jake Berger, was 3 for 8 in this series.
Nice pitch.
Well, Berger got himself an 0-2 hanging slider up. Didn't do much up and on the outside part of the plate. Didn't try to do too much with it. Base hit, 1 ball game.
Well, Michael, that's why it's even more frustrating because the National League isn't really good this year, and the Mets only had to be halfway decent to be in a playoff spot. And yeah, I think it's obvious that the Braves and the Dodgers are the two best teams, but we all know that the MLB playoffs now doesn't matter if you're the best team or the second best team. I can guarantee you one of them, if not both, are going to get knocked off. And I have a pretty good feeling that one of them is going to get knocked off before the NLCS. It just happens. It's rare that you have two best teams in the NLCS. Look at last year. You had the second and third wildcard team in the NLCS, in the Padres and the Phillies. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Braves or the Dodgers, one of them, get knocked off before the NLCS. And the only reason why I say that is because the Dodgers rotation is in shambles. I don't trust the Braves rotation. Unless the Braves are going to bludgeon people offensively. Usually that doesn't happen in the postseason. And look, I don't trust Strider. I don't trust Fried. Fried has bad numbers in the playoffs. You got a couple of guys that don't have no numbers, and I believe Ortega should have that too, and that should end the inning. So the Marlins do not score. Going to the top of the second, no score. Yeah, and it's the same thing with that. Like, it comes down to we saw it with the Yankees for years, right? They scored the most runs in the league. They hit a ton of home runs, and then when it came down to facing better pitcher in the playoffs, they got shut down. They haven't scored a lot of runs in the playoffs, and I think that goes for a lot of teams that score a lot of runs in the regular season. They face a lot of bad pitchers. You're not facing the fourth and fifth starters in the playoffs. At times you're not even facing the number 3 starter in the playoffs. You're facing the number 1 and number 2. And even though the starting pitching isn't as good as of late in the National League, you're still facing the 2 or 3 best pitchers on a team. And I think that comes back to, the offense comes back to earth a little bit. And they're not putting out outrageous numbers that they had during the season. And we'll see. The Braves have cut down on their strikeouts a little bit more, especially a guy like Olsen, who was striking out at an alarming rate, even though he was hitting a ton of home runs. This year, a little different. But again, I think it comes down to pitching. The guys have to step up. And I think the big reason why – look, the Braves had a better team last year than they did in 2021. That's just obvious. Why did they lose? Well, the offense didn't do their job, and the pitching wasn't as good. Right? The offense was decent, pretty good, but their pitching wasn't as good. And I think the problem's going to come back to haunt when it comes to pitching. The Dodgers basically been running away from the division along with the Braves for about 2.5 months now. And I do wonder if the pitching can be good enough for those teams. Even though the National League isn't very good, you still need good pitching in the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But I'll be doing a lot of live streams during the playoffs, so we'll have a lot of time to do that. So Rafael Ortega is leading off, no score in the top of the second. I'll be right back, guys.
We need to close over there. My Miami geography is way messed up. I never don't know where around this town. Rafael Ortega leads off against Yuri Perez, and he chases a high fastball. It's 0-2. Ortega, the late addition of the lineup, with the scratch of DJ Stewart. Ortega hitting 225 and 89 at bats for the Mets. A nice job filling in where needed. A nice stretch of playing time before Stewart got hot. Takes the pitch low, and it's 1-2. Mark Vientos on deck, and then Brett Beatty for the Mets, who got the first 2 men out of the first against Perez, but could not capitalize. 1-2 coming, and Ortega fouls it off. Keith mentioned that Perez was sent down to the minor leagues for a month. Went down in early July, came back in early August, and the only reason they did that, he was really sailing at the time, he had a 2.36 ERA through 11 starts, is to slow down his innings. Breaking ball popped up, and Berger retreats into shallow left and grabs it one out. Last year, pitching in the minor leagues. Yuri Perez threw only 77 innings. This year, between the majors and the minors, he's thrown 125 innings. So he's already nearly 50 innings ahead of last year. And there's talk here in Miami that if the Marlins do make the postseason, Perez may not be allowed to pitch. With Mark Vientos, shades of Steven Strasburg back in the day. This was not injury consideration like it was for Strasburg, who was coming back from Tommy John surgery. This was all about just not having him throw too many innings, more than he threw last year. It's only 20, and they're trying to protect him. Not that there's any evidence that limiting pitchers' innings protects them.
Jay, exactly what I was saying earlier before you came on. 2023 in a nutshell.
Ron Hodges, when he visited City Field West homestand, Ron said he just felt that's not the way to develop arms. And, that's the old school with what they think about today, how they do things today.
Well, what we do know is that pitchers max effort more than ever. That's drilled in left.
Oh, yeah. That might be gone. Yeah, Mark Vientos with a solo home run in the second. Showing off his power. Been a really bright spot for the Mets lately. 367 feet, 100 miles an hour exit velocity. Vientos been playing a lot more, been looking better with the bat. I like to see it. 1-0 Mets.
Vientos continues his nice run. And the Mets have the early lead in this game.
All right, there we go.
Fastball in.
Ooh, that was a fastball, and he turned on it. That wasn't a bad pitch.
A change up, I'm not sure.
Quick bat inside. Just got over the wall. All right. Here's Brett Beatty.
That's Vientos' sixth home run. The first 5 all came at City Field. That's his first on the road this year.
First home run on the road this year.
Beautiful swing.
Appropriate for Mark with his first road home run. That was back home, in Florida. Brett Beatty, his first appearance since last Wednesday when he tweaked his groin against Arizona. He was having a good day that day. He went 2 for 3 before he got hurt. After missing 6 games, was back in the lineup tonight. This is Perez' 8th batter of the game, and he's gone 0-2 on 5 of the 8, including Vientos, who had an 0-2 pitch for the home run. This is now with the fastball 1-2. According to StatCast, Keith, the pitch to Vientos was a slider, so I think it was a backup slider.
And he hung it
at the end.
So when you throw a helicopter here, a hanger, you lose velocity. And if you leave it on the inner part of the plate, you're just the hitter has a great chance to get the barrel out and put some hurt on you. That's why they call that hanger.
Beatty able to split off the slider, and it's 2-2. Omar Narvaez, the on-deck batter. It's the 15th home run that Perez has given up in 90 innings this year.
And Brett Beatty strikes out on the slider, 2 outs.
And Perez has his second strikeout, 2 out in the inning. Eric Sack with almost 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. It's 108 strikeouts in 90 innings for the rookie. Here's Omar Narvaez. Started the opening game of this series, went 1 for 3. It's basically a split of playing time at this point in the season for Narvaez and Alvarez as they try and slow down Alvarez's playing time. And I think it's benefited him. He's certainly swung the bat better lately. Narvaez lifts one to left and over toward the line.
And that should end the inning, and it does. But not before the Mets get a solo home run for Mark Vientos, number 8 on the season. 1-0 Mets going to the bottom of the second. Once again, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. And if you didn't hear the news earlier today that the New York Mets and Pete Alonso are on the same page financially, but not on the same page with the number of years. So I think that's to be expected. That's usually what holds up almost every deal is usually the amount of years, not really the money anymore. It's the years. I do think the Mets are probably offering 6 or 7 years, and I think Pete Alonso wants 8 or 9 years. And I think at some point, if not during the rest of the season, or most likely it'll probably happen when the playoffs start going on, they'll probably come in the middle. I think it'll be an 8-year deal. Michael, I'm fine with it. I think that too many people blame Buck for everything that's happened, and I don't think that's fair. Like, the problem with the fans is that the easiest person to blame is the person that can be fired, right? You can't fire the players. And I think we're so quick to just say, oh, it's his fault because that's the one guy that is replaceable, but not the players on the field, right? The biggest reason why the New York Mets are where they are is because the guys like McNeil, Nimmo, Alonso, Lindor were absolutely dog crap from the middle of May until the end of June. It's a big reason why this team did what they did at the deadline, and they were the big reasons why, along with the pitching, of course. But if you really look back to those months, the Mets lost a lot of close games, and they were low-scoring games because the offense wasn't very good. And the big reason why they weren't very good was because Pete Alonso was batting 200 during that month and a half. Lindor was batting 210. McNeil was batting 240, 250. Along with Nimmo not doing it, and I think, and that's one out. So that's the way I see it. Yeah, Michael, I agree, but Buck has made mistakes this year. I'm going to be the first person to say that. But all managers make mistakes. Are we always going to blame the managers for the poor performance on the field? No. You know, there's a couple of decisions where I didn't agree with Buck, but you know, we also have to look at the 2 seasons he's been manager. One, he was manager of the year, and this year he hasn't had a good year. But the players also didn't have a good year either. And it's going to be hard to find a manager. And if David Stearns really wants Craig Counsell to be the manager, and Craig Counsell is taking a year off, it's going to be very hard to find somebody to take a manager position for 1 year when that manager knows he's going to hire Craig Counsell in 2025. So why hire a manager to be a lame duck for 1 year when you can just keep Buck Showalter? And if you believe that Buck Showalter is the major reason why this team is where they are, then you haven't been paying attention to the Mets as a whole. Now, is Buck part of the problem? Absolutely. But the majority of the reason, you know, if you do a top 3 reasons why the Mets are where they are, Buck Showalter is not in the top 3. You can put in whatever order you want, but it's the offense, the starting pitching, and the bullpen that's been the problem. And you can order it any way you want to. Now, is Buck Showalter probably top 5? Yeah, I could probably put that in there. But top 3 is the 3 main reasons: the bullpen, the starting pitching, and the offense. All right, so 2 outs, another strikeout for Senga.
Number 192 for the season. Now, this first crowd, they had just over 10,000 last night.
Well, you know, again, you know, a lot of people like Craig Counsell. Again, you know, people talk about Buck Showalter not winning. Craig Counsell hasn't won nothing either. So, again, there's a pretty good chance you're going to find a manager. The next person they're going to bring in is probably a guy that hasn't won. So, I don't know what to say about that. I'd rather give 1 more year to Buck Showalter and see how it goes. If he has another bad year, well, then he's gone anyway. He has a 3-year deal. So,
3 for 7 in this series. It's his 52nd start for the Marlins, but he's been an everyday player coming down the stretch. He's played 6 different positions for them.
He made a heck of a play up the middle on Mauricio's ball in the 9th last night
and saved the game. Let's have a chance to take the lead. And Hampson ranging behind the bag at second and threw out Mauricio by a stride. If he doesn't get it, Nimmo probably comes around with a go-ahead run.
Been a lot of player timeouts, so hitter timeouts so far early in this game.
Anyway, we got a clarification on that non-balk call.
Okay.
Against Braxton Garrett yesterday. Remember when Lindor was coming down the line and he stepped off and threw home? Well, he's 2-2 to Hampson. So
Yeah, Christopher, he was taken out of the lineup like a few minutes before the game. Something happened. I don't know what happened, but they took him out of the lineup.
That violates the letter of the law. The umpires are not going to call that. It's just not something that they are inclined to call.
Okay, now clarify. The right foot, that would be his
Left foot is the foot on the rubber. He stepped off of the left, but his foot was still in the air. It did not yet come down.
Right.
He moved his lead foot and threw the ball home.
Right.
It's almost like he jumped off the rubber with both feet, which technically is not legal, but I think they don't call it.
How can you, number one, how can you anticipate that? I've never seen that.
I found out something else about that play. Mike Showalter told me this today. If the batter
Oh, Michael, that's
swings
true.
that pitch, that throw ball, it's obstruction, and the runner coming from third is out.
Oh, just outside, ball 4. Yeah, I mean, but again, are we blaming Aaron Boone for what the Yankees are doing this year, or is it that the offense is absolutely terrible and the pitching wasn't as good? You know, at some point, you know, you can't blame the manager for everything, right?
Here's the play last night. Watch his left foot's in the air when his right foot starts to move.
Right. He did move the left foot first.
Right. And they let them get away with that.
And it's almost like a hop, skip, and a jump.
Right.
Ground ball. It's going to be a hard play with Birdie. Ooh. So Birdie beat out that chopper. So it's first and second, 2 outs.
Just a Baltimore shot for John Birdie. And by the time it came down to Lindor, there was no chance to make a play.
That was really the only play for Lindor right there. He wasn't going to throw out the speedy Birdie, and you just hope that you catch Hampson falling asleep.
Hampson was wide awake. That's the first hit of the night against Senga, and that brings up the number 9 hitter, Jacob Stallings, with 2 men on. Stallings starting for the second time in this series, 0 for 3. He takes the fork ball just below the knees, ball 1. Chris Siegel's calling the balls and strikes tonight. Nestor Sehai in the first game of the series got a 98% accuracy rating. Quite so good for Brandon Moore last night.
No, Brian had a tough night. And you got the RA too.
Well, the Marlins dugout was on him for the first inning, and we caught him on audio saying, words that shouldn't be said on television. But that happens sometimes when your audio is really good. Hampson at second, Birdie at first. They both run well. 1-1 to Stallings with 2 out. And Stallings takes the cutter up high. It's 2-1.
Senga's missing with his slider. You can see his expression. He's trying to find it. A little frustrated. He will stay composed and try to lock in.
And you've seen it both ways with Senga, where he's had it from the first inning on and where he finds it along the way.
Should be right to Nimmo, and that ends the inning. So the Marlins don't score in the bottom of the second. 1-0 Mets from Vientos solo home run in the top of the second, going to the top of the third. The Mets will have up the top of the order, Nimmo, Mauricio, Alonso in the top of the third. So yeah, I mean, and especially nowadays, guys, when it comes to the managers. The managers are not as important as they once were. And I know that they still make the decisions with the bullpen and taking out the starters and taking out certain pitchers and everything like that. But again, there's a handful of games this year, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6, where Buck Showalter made a bad decision. But again, if we all agree that the bullpen, there was nobody he can trust in the bullpen besides Robinson this year, what was he supposed to do? No matter who he brought in, it seems like they failed. So, even if you didn't agree about bringing in that particular pitcher from the bullpen, other than Robertson, there was nobody he can trust. So he was basically working with a bullpen that he couldn't trust all year. So what was he supposed to do in that situation? The one where I really got on him, where I was really annoyed, was when Toronto was in town at Citi Field and he didn't walk Vlad Guerrero, where he should have walked him, and Guerrero got the big hit. Other than that, besides who to bring in at certain times, what was he supposed to do if there's a bullpen that he couldn't trust? Yeah, Michael, but again, if you look at the Yankees in years past when it came to the playoffs, if you look at the American League, besides the Astros, there wasn't a lot of really dominant teams in the American League. So, like last year, the Yankees made the ALCS last year. Do you really think they were really that good? Or was the American League absolutely garbage? Right? They barely got past the Cleveland Guardians in the divisional round. Like, the American League wasn't very good last year, and the American League isn't very good this year either. So, they are good, but again, there's not a lot. I think the American League probably has a little bit better rotations going into the playoffs, but I don't know. We'll see. Michael, that's true.
Now 5 for 11 in this series. He's finishing strong. The Mets have 4 players this year with VENMO, Alonso, Lindor, and McNeil, who all have over 600 plate appearances already this year. It's been a long time since the Mets had 4 players go over 600 plate appearances. You got to go back to 2010, the last time it happened. Let's roll away, and it's 3-0. 2010, David Wright, Jose Reyes, Manuel Pagan, and Ike Davis each had over 600.
See if the Mets can get something going here, and with the leadoff, with Nimmo up, leading off the inning. And that's a 4-pitch walk for Nimmo, leadoff walk for the Mets.
So Nimmo continues to find his way forward. 70 walks now for Brandon. His on base percentage right up around 360. Been scuffling for a while, but he's back where he is accustomed to being. Since years where he's been 380, 390. Jacob Stallings looks like he has some kind of equipment issue. We're bringing a new glove. Tonight it was Alvarez who had it.
There's a guy that's ready. He got his backup glove. Former Gold Glover. I always had a backup mitt here. I have one ready in my locker.
Does he have a little label on
No,
backup glove?
I did not have a gold label back then. They didn't do that stuff.
No, but I'm wondering if Stallings does. Since he won a gold glove 2 years ago with the Pirates, he should have a gold label.
No, it's red.
That's only if you have a Rollins glove, right?
Yes.
It's a different brand. You don't get the gold label. Mauricio drew a walk his first time up. 5 straight balls for Perez to start the inning and make it 6 as Stallings has to go down in the dirt for that spiked fastball. It's hard enough to block a breaking ball in the dirt, but when you spike a fastball like this, that's some serious work.
Now we get Mel Stottlemyre Jr. out to the mound for a visit. Mel, how long has he been here? Forever. As their pitching coach.
Well, Jr. might have been a terrific pitcher in his own right if he not hurt his arm. His brother Todd turned into a very good major league starter.
Todd, I faced him with Toronto
All right, so the 6 pitches, 6 balls in a row for Perez. So the pitcher coach went out there to speak to him.
Odd pitch for Buck Showalter with the Diamondbacks. I think he was the only Diamondback pitcher to get a win in that division series against the Mets in '99. 2-0 to Mauricio. It's fastball and fouls it off. He's ready, but maybe a little too ready.
We'll see pitching from the screen first base side of the rubber.
It's that black toe plate on the front inside of his push-off shoe. 2-1 to Mauricio with Alonso on deck. And
Mauricio gets a base hit. Nemo's going to go to third. Oh, it goes by. And Nemo's going to score. And then the ball gets away, and Mauricio gets to third base, and the Mets take a 2-0 lead. There we go.
I don't know why the shortstop Hanson allowed Sanchez's throw to go through the third base. They had no chance to get Nemo.
All right.
Because he let it go by.
Again, and this is one of the teams that are vying for a playoff spot. And you're going to tell me the Mets wouldn't have been just as good as these teams?
Is this an error to throw or is it an error to third baseman?
It's an error on the throw by Sanchez, allowing the runners to move up.
So, 2-0 Mets. Mauricio gets to third with nobody out.
Mauricio go to third, so there are 2 errors on the play.
And the Marlins, Berger was late, praying for that ball here. I mean, you know that ball's tailing. And the pitcher here backing up third. Not really. He's right.
Yeah, if he had hustled over there, he might have had a better play on it. So it's a new 9, allowing the run to score and allowing Mauricio to second, and then an E5 on Berger, allowing Mauricio to go to third. And
So they're checking on Berger with the trainer right now.
Maybe that's why he didn't move to that errant throw.
I agree, Michael.
Marlins just,
Skip Schumacher really needs Jake Berger in his lineup, so he's going to give him every chance to stay in this game if he's able. Let's move all that well to third base anyway, but they need his bat. Where's the play at third base when he reached for it? I don't know if he heard it as he lunged, or as he tried to change direction here, or
the first step, the first push off, because he did not react
No,
to the.
actually, Jay, I think he's been better at second, not really third. I mean, he's looked okay. He looked pretty decent at third, but I like him at second base.
I agree.
But Mauricio has been playing well. But again, let's not get excited for September. The way somebody plays in September, especially when there's no pressure. Once the league gets around and finds his weak spot, it's going to be up to Mauricio to adjust, and that's when you're going to know how good he really is. Right? Brett Beatty looked good when he first came up. The league figured him out, and Brett Beatty hasn't adjusted yet. The same thing is going for Alvarez. Alvarez hasn't been hitting a lot of home runs over the last couple of months because they figured out his weak spot, and he hasn't really adjusted as of yet.
That results in a run, and Edwards is going to come in and play second, I would think, and we'll move Williams to third.
The Marlins made.
Once there's a book on a player and they know his weakness, it's going to be up to Mauricio to adjust to that, what they do to him. And then that's how you're going to know if he's going to be a guy that's going to be a major leaguer going forward.
The Marlins down 2 key players from their lineup.
Yeah, exactly, Michael. I agree.
And that matters not just tonight, but going forward as well. Just 10 days to go on the season after this. There he's getting some warm-up pitches in while Edwards loosens up his arm on second base. Nobody out of the inning. A run is in. And Mauricio will be in third with nobody out.
So, forgotten in all this is a nice at bat by Mauricio.
So the Mets have a 2-0 lead in the top of the third. Man on third with nobody out. Pete Alonso up.
One of the fascinating things about Mauricio, they've tried to get him to cut down on his chase, but his chase can be successful. Infield now comes in for Alonso, struck out his first time up. And first pitch, breaking ball, swung and missed, 0-1.
Jay, yes, I agree with that. Even though if you heard a lot of Met fans during the season, they don't care if they made errors. Bring him up because of his bat. Even though the Mets, the big reason why they sucked in June was because they couldn't make plays defensively and made a ton of errors. And Mauricio should score, and he will. Sac fly for Pete Alonso, 3-0 Mets. That's the way you do situational hitting. Put the bat on the ball. Good job.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Lindor. Fly out to right his first time up. Cisco takes a changeup down for ball 1. This afternoon, the Phillies beat the Braves in extra innings. The Marlins, the Diamondbacks, blew out the Giants 7-1. Another good start from Merrill Kelly, who struggled against the Mets, but bounced back 6 2/3, allowed just 3 hits. Cincinnati lost to Minnesota this afternoon. That was a huge lone save for Alexis Diaz. They had a lead in the ninth. And the Twins scored 3 in the ninth against Diaz. Minnesota lowered their magic number for clinching the American League Central to 2. And really put a grip on the Reds' hopes. The Reds now a game and a half off the pace. The Giants, with their loss, 3.5 out. And the time started to wane. So the Marlins could put themselves in better position with a win today. Cubs are playing the Pirates tonight. 1-2 to Lindor with Jeff McNeil waiting on deck. San Francisco watches a fastball away at 98. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Harris's average fastball velocity this year has been 97.6. He's hit 100 a couple of times early in the season. Haven't seen that tonight. And that fastball pitches low, and it's 3-2. And, it's always been the case with tall pitchers that you worry about them keeping their mechanics in whack. But they've always said of Perez that he has smooth mechanics for a 6'8" guy.
And Lindor pops it up. Mike go out. Oh, nice play. 2 outs.
But it feels watching him tonight, Keith, as though his mechanics have been a little bit wonky.
He's all arms and legs, Garrett. It's hard to repeat. You'll compare him in size to J.R. Richards, who had wonderful mechanics, straight over the top, and he was more of a drop and drive pitcher. Drop and drive.
So 2 outs, 3-0 Mets.
Well, he's not, a hair on fire, 6'10" guy like Randy Johnson was. Jeff McNeil fouled out to first base his first time up. Perez this year became the youngest pitcher in Marlins history. Jose Fernandez was also 20 years old when he came to the big leagues, but he was a few months older. Perez was not even a month past his 20th birthday when he made his debut. He'll bounce back in 22. You never know what kind of fun the box can be. sometimes even better than what's inside. Fun for hours. Change up, this is down. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Wait, how long do you think she will be occupied with that box? It's going to help her root for her favorite team. So we use it as a megaphone. Great fun. So
And McNeil fouls it off, stays alive.
They got a piece of it to stay in the at-bat.
Senga's been in the dugout a
All 3
pretty
teams
long
in the
time.
American League West race won this afternoon. Houston, Seattle, and Texas all posted victories. There's a little pressure on Toronto in that wild card race. They're playing the Yankees tonight. 2-2 coming. That's fouled away. Blue Jays started the day at the second wild card spot, but just a game ahead of Seattle and Texas, and now they're just a half game. Well, the box has now been shredded. Now there's more fun to be had. Now you can draw on the inside of the box.
No, she can go, Mom. Can I have another?
7th pitch to McNeil, and now it skips to the backstop on a curveball from Perez. It's 3-2. Pitches already for Perez, not yet through the 3rd. It's not going to be a long start for him tonight. He's not throwing more than 93 pitches in a game.
And McNeil fouls off another pitch. Good at bat by Jeff.
Yuri Perez with Santiago in the Dominican Republic. Family had limited funds, but he told his mom, if you let me play baseball, keep a ledger, I'll pay you back when I get to the big leagues.
And Alonso takes ball 4, and the inning continues. Very long inning for the Mets here.
Very long given up by Perez.
Perez's way he's working right now, but it's not looking to have a lengthy start here.
The box being put back together. Tape it, Mama. No. New, brand new. And now ball.
And they call the balk on Perez, and McNeil goes to second base. So Perez is just all over the place right now. Oh, yeah, he flinched. So Mets have a run in scoring position with 2 outs with Ortega.
Takes the fastball up out of the strike zone for ball 1. There's 26 pitches in this inning already. He's walked a pair. It's only had 1 hit in the inning. That was Mauricio's base hit. It scored twice.
Another ball.
Perez misses away with the fastball. It's 2-0. Skip Schumacher really shortened his bullpen.
Vientos on deck.
Used his best 2 relievers, Puck and Scott, in both games. He did a lot of bullpen to get through this one.
The one that did the best job was Nardi.
Nardi came in and really saved their bacon. They were with the bases loaded in the 7th, got Mauricio to ground out, then got them through the 8th. And then Scott faltered for the 2nd straight day. Walk against Perez was the first of his brief big league career. 2-1 to Ortega with Vientos on deck.
And Ortega pops it up, and it goes foul.
Stallings watches that still. Play 2-2. Stephen Oker, one of the 5 left-handers now in the Miami bullpen, is getting up. The Marlins added Matt Moore to the active roster today. Moore played without waivers from Cleveland. 5 lefties in the pen. Here are the amateur umpires being on the play. They got the baseball. They make the calls. This will be the 30th pitch of the inning for Perez. Ortega.
Ortega pops it up and goes foul as well.
It's throwing a lot of balls down the middle right now.
Waiting on word on DJ Stewart, who was scratched. Ortega put in the lineup just moments before the game began. Those guys usually have good nights. And Rafael.
And Ortega pops it up, should end the inning. And it does, but not before the Mets get 2 on the board and add to their runs. 3-0 Mets going to the bottom of the third. Senga coming back onto the mound. So, guys, there's 11 games left in the season. Obviously, this is game 11. And the season is almost over. A lot of Marlins, a lot of Phillies left. The Mets go to Philadelphia after the game tonight for 4 games in Citizens Bank. And the Phillies look to keep their stranglehold on the top wild card spot. And the Mets are trying to, at the very least, knock them out of the first wild card spot, which would be very nice. I think that would be funny as well, since the Phillies have been holding on to that first wild card spot for a while now. And, as good as the Phillies were in the playoffs last year, they still were a team that, had their concerns, right? Last year, basically the entire season, got hot at the right time and took them to the World Series. This year, looking like they're going to have more wins than they did last year. I believe they had, 87 wins last year? They got 83 right now, and they got, 10, 11 games to go. So, in all likelihood, they could get to 90 wins. I mean, they got to go 7-3. But, I mean, to be honest, if you look at the NL wild card in general, not a lot of those teams are going 7-3, 8-2. A lot of them for about a month and a half now are going 6-4, 5-5, 4-6, or even worse. There hasn't been a lot of 8-2 stretches, 9-1, 7-3 at all. A lot of 6-4s, a lot of 5-5s. They've been basically playing 500 baseball for a couple of months now. It's just that nobody's been taking advantage of a weak NL division, NL league. So that's what is even more frustrating with the Mets, is that they could have easily made the playoffs if they were just decent in June. They could have been at least a close or a little better than 500. So, Senga on the mound, 3-0 Mets in the bottom of the third. And that's a leadoff hit for the Marlins. I'll be right back, guys.
Ball down in the strike zone, Soler, nice swing. Used to be a nightclub. Now it's just a hair club. And that was some kind of nightclub. They still have the flashing lights back there. They don't have the pool that they used to have in that nightclub. Here's Jazz Chisholm into a fielder's choice his first time up, and he takes one curveball high for ball 1. Senga's just been a little bit off so far tonight. He's going to allow 2 hits. He's walked a pair, struck out only 1. Soler at first, now a base stealing threat. And a back foot cutter for a strike, and it's 1-1 to Chisholm. Terrible play that was for the Marlins. 2 errors on one play, and they lost one of their best hitters, all in the same sequence. With Jake Berger coming out of the game. It's the 2 nights in a row, Gary, that they've made 2 errors in the same inning. 1-2 to Chisholm. Xavier Edwards, who took Berger's spot, is on deck. And just rifles one down the line, foul. Got ahead of that fastball and hit it hard, but just foul.
Cubs are underway in their game at Wrigley against the Pirates. After Chicago won last night, a rain-delayed affair, 14-1. They've got their ace Justin Steele doing tonight. Last night it was Alexander Canario in his first big league start, driving in 5 runs for the Cubs. Just never know. Popped up. Coming in is Alonso to help out Narvaez, and it's Alonso's call. And he's got one out. Narvaez could have had a play on that, but Alonso knew that he had the easier play and he came charging.
If you can get there, it's up high enough. He was holding the runner on, so he was able to come in aggressively. I like to see that. And we noticed Keith. He's not so
All right, so 1 out, 1 on, bottom of the third, 3-0 Mets.
Right in the middle of the bat. And, you know, as far as the runner's concerned, you know, you take your lead. I don't like taking a lead back like that far. But Pete's coming off the bat, so he's vacating the bat, but it's kind of an unusual starting position. There you go. That's kind of extreme, different.
He likes to block that runner.
But he comes off on the throw, yeah. But
Ground ball should be 2. And nope, too fast. So he gets the second out, leadoff man, 2 outs.
He might have had a better chance at a double play by taking the out at first, and then going after Soler. Because Edwards just too quick.
He positioned the fielder, came and got it there. That's why it took away any chance to tag. You want to get to make sure, keep the runner out of scoring position.
And he got the stolen base right
All right, 2 outs.
Edwards at first.
And Pete came to the ball to try to get the 2. Get everything right.
Belt takes fastball high for ball 1. Belt flat out to left his first time up. Belt 1 for 9 in this series. His only hit came as a right-hand batter. It was an opposite field double. Belt takes that one a little off the outside corner, and it's 2-0. Edwards has only stolen 1 base so far. Showed off his speed last night with a bunt hit. He's got some great bunting ability. Also had a sacrifice in that game last night.
Nice pitch on the outside corner, 2-1.
Well, the Mets have 7 games left with the Phillies, but the Phillies are in pretty good shape with a 4-game lead on the field in the race for the first wild card.
Ground ball, and that ends the inning. Marlins do not score. Pete Alonso makes 2 nice plays to end the inning, and top of the 4th coming up, 3-0 Mets. Mets will have Vientos, Beatty, Narvaez, 7, 8, and 9 for the Mets. So we'll see if the Mets can put some more runs on the board and help out Senga. And Senga, slowly but surely and somewhat quietly, lowering that ERA even more to keep it under 3. You know, he goes 6-7 innings with 0 runs. He's going to have it would be close to a 2.9 ERA, maybe just under that. So Senga is still looking to get a couple of more Cy Young votes. Even though I don't think he's going to win it, maybe has a better chance at Rookie of the Year. Even though Carroll had a great game last night for the Diamondbacks. But all we can hope for is Kodai Senga to continue to get better into next year as well. And I do believe the Mets are going to be the highest bidder for Yamamoto, even though the Yankees might have something to say about that. But I think the Mets are going to – I think when Steve Cohen wants a player – he gets him. I think it's that simple. If he's willing to give the most money, which he usually is, and he wants that player, he usually gets him. You know, we all forget that. We act like, you know, Correa went to the Twins because he wanted to go to the Twins. No. After the medicals of Correa, Cohen took back that long-term deal and made it a little bit more team friendly than player friendly, and that just showed that Steve Cohen backed off just enough to not really want to go all in on Correa. But there's no mistake about it. When Cohen wants that player, he'll get him. And I truly believe that with Yamamoto, and I believe that with any other player. And I also think he's going to make the biggest offer to Ohtani. It's just a matter of, does Ohtani want to come to the East Coast? We'll see. All right, so top of the fourth, Mets lead 3-0. Perez is already out of the game. The Marlins go into their bullpen very early in the game. Vientos leading off, 3-0 Mets.
Arizona plays all American League teams. The final 3 series.
Vientos gave the Mets the lead in the second inning with his 6th home run.
How can that be here?
Well, every day, there has to be at least one interleague game because there are 15 teams in each league.
I understand.
That's what they want, and that's what they wanted. And now we have everybody playing everybody like the leagues don't matter anymore. Congratulations. You did it. You killed the leagues. Here's the 0-1 to Vientos, and it's inside and ball is strike. Vientos, then Brett Beatty and Omar Narvaez for the Mets in the top of the fourth. And that runs inside, a slider from Oker, 2 balls and a strike.
Nice to see Vientos figuring it out a little bit at the
Nice
plate.
stretch for Mark, 11 hits in his last 32 at-bats. Hitting the ball hard consistently, even his outs have been hard. And Oker picks off the outside corner with that backdoor slider, and it's 2-2. Stephen Oker started his career with the Giants, pitched for them for 3 years. Then he hurt his arm. He was out for a couple of years. Came back with the Marlins in 21. He's been with them ever since. Vientos hooks that one down the left field line. A long run for De La Cruz into foul ground. He slides, and he couldn't quite make the catch. Nice effort by De La Cruz.
Good try by De La Cruz, but ended up being a foul ball, and Vientos stays alive.
Against the sidewall.
You always worry about someone getting hurt.
That's the advantage of playing in your home ballpark, you know, just how much room you've got. So when Yuri Perez went just 3 innings, allowed 3 runs, 2 of them earned on 3 hits, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, a home run, and a balk. Second shortest outing of the season. The game against the Braves right before they sent him down, where he got knocked out in the first inning, gave up 6 runs. But this is his shortest outing since he's been back from the minors. And a swing and a miss.
And Vientos strikes out, 1 out.
Fastball. Oker has a strikeout against his first batter, 1 away.
He just went up the ladder there, and Vientos chased out of the strike zone. A lot of guys love how that ball looks up in their eyes like that. And it's gone down through the decades and centuries of baseball.
Brett Beatty taking a slider.
See if Brett Beatty can hit a lefty here. He's been struggling with lefties as well.
Groin injury. So 10 games to go after today. And now that Beatty is back in the fold, it'll be interesting to see how the playing time gets weeded out, particularly at third base.
Well, those 6 days that he sat out gave Mauricio a chance to play third base. And I must say, I'm very impressed with his glove at third base.
Yeah, I don't think it would be talking out of school to say that of the 3, Mauricio certainly presents the best as a defensive third baseman.
And he's played a good second base as well. Showed he has a good turn on a double play, sure-handed.
Here's my question. You've already got a guy who can move around in Jeff McNeil, who can play second, third, left, right, play center or first base in a pinch.
And Beatty strikes out. 2 strikeouts in a row, 2 outs in the inning.
Mauricio to be that guy
want to put a rookie trying to get his feet wet. You want to put him in a position where he's playing multiple positions. I'm kind of inclined to just get him feeling comfortable from the offensive side of the ball game and the defensive side. Because that kind of question will certainly inform how the Mets approach the offseason. With David Stearns taking over the baseball operation in terms of how they not only grade each player, but how they value them as assets.
And Ortega hits one in the gap, and he misses it. Navarez might, and he hits a double, so 2-out double for Navarez.
Chisholm gave it a pretty good run, but he came up empty on his dive, and Narvaez is his 5th double of the year.
Remember, this is Chisholm's first year in the outfield, center field, primarily an infielder. And
Joe, I wouldn't say he's done. I just think he's got to figure it out. He just come back from injury as well, but he hasn't had a good year for sure.
But a good effort, no question.
He's gotten better as the years gone along, but clearly he has not been an elite defensive center fielder in his first year out there. And there are certainly questions on the Marlins side as to whether he stays in the outfield next year, whether they transform him back into a shortstop. It's not that he was a great defensive shortstop. He played better at second base, to be honest, but once they got a rise, it made sense to move Chisholm to the outfield. Here's Demo, who singled and walked.
See if you can get a 2-out RBI here.
Because the Marlins really don't have an everyday shortstop right now. They use Joe Wendell there. They use Garrett Hampson there. They use John Birdie there. None of their profiles as an everyday shortstop. And then what jumps back from the over fastball, 2 balls, no strikes. Walked on 4 pitches his last time up against Perez. Now 2-0 against Oker. So he hasn't seen a strike since his base hit the first time. And that slider catches the corner, and it's 2-1.
VENMO's really worn out left-handers here in this series. And of late.
He's just had himself a terrific year. Different kind of year for him. More power. It's lower on base percentage, but the overall effect has been extremely positive.
And an outside chance at 90 runs. He's got 62 RBIs. That's productive from the leadoff hitter.
Thrown 70 walks this year. See his on-base percentage has come down a little bit, but his slugging percentage has gone up. And the net effect has been just about the same. 23 home runs this year, new career high. Love to get it to 25. That'd be a nice round number. Well, if that's not round, but you know what I mean. It's a milestone. Here's the 2-2. And he hits it sharply right at the
And that should end the inning. That ends the top of the 4th. Mets do not score. 3-0 Mets going to the bottom of the 4th. So if you guys are paying attention to Twitter right now, a report has just come out that Pete Alonso is asking for 10 years in a contract extension, and the Mets are unwilling to go that high, and I kind of agree with that. So I tend to agree not to give him 10 years. Again, I wouldn't go more than 8. And again, I think the Mets probably offered him 7. He's probably asking for 10. He is asking for 10, and I probably would go 8. And I think that's, again, financially, money-wise, it really doesn't matter. Again, I don't think money is the issue at all. It's the years, and I agree with that. So, and again, for all the people that are killing the Mets for not signing or getting an extension done with Pete Alonso earlier, is because Pete Alonso has probably been hell-bent on 10 years. And again, if you're the Mets, 10 years is an outrageous number. It just is. And again, if he's not budging from that, you don't sign him. Let him go into next year in a contract year and make him put up similar numbers. I think, if he does become a free agent, if the Mets really do want to keep Alonso around, you give the big number and you deal with the consequences later on. But again, and this is when people talk about why the Mets don't go into arbitration years and buy out arbitration years and give extension to these players earlier on, is because these players don't really give these teams, especially big market teams, that choice, in my opinion, to be honest. When do you hear of a team from New York or a big market team get a hometown discount to buy out arbitration years and save the team a little bit of money? It's unheard of. Teams like the Braves and, smaller market teams, for some reason, players are willing to do that more with small market teams than big market teams, unfortunately.
It's almost ritualistic.
Explosive, I'm not giving him 10 years. I think that's an outrageous number.
Sometimes they'll throw all curveballs. Sometimes
easy, they will. Guaranteed.
Sometimes they'll throw mostly fastballs. He knows his body.
And don't worry, Explosive, they're going to get it done. But 10 years is not going to happen. The Mets are not doing 10 years. I'm sorry.
The only thing that he does every single time the same way is he throws 34 pitches in the bullpen.
No, if you want to do 8 years with a mutual option or a player option or a team option for year 9,
34 goes 4.
Mets crew, no. Again, the Mets are not trading Pete Alonso. It's not happening. They're going to get the deal done. Again, when the years are the only issue, the deal's going to get done because the money is not the problem. They already are on the same page with the financial aspect of the contract. So the per year, the AAV is going to be what it is. They're on the same page with that. And it's probably going to be somewhere between 25 and 27 million, in my opinion. Either way, he's going to be the highest paid first baseman in baseball.
Last year, and Senga trying to get there with that group. So there's 14 batters in this game. He's thrown first pitch strikes to only 5 of them, so it's been a little wonky for him tonight. But he's held the Marlins.
Kodai Senga has the third best ERA in the National League at 2.95. Justin Steele and Blake Snell clearly lead that ERAs right now. And that's a base hit for Dela Cruz. All right, guys, so listen to the game. I'll be back after around the 5th inning. I'll be back, guys, so listen up.
At an angle, and that's how he did it. But I think it even surprised him what went that direction.
So now Jesus Sanchez, who struck out his first time up, the only strikeout for Senga so far tonight. Sanchez watches a knee-high fastball for a strike, nothing in one.
Coming into the game, left-hander hitting 188 off Senga. A lot of that has to do with the fork. There's the contact right there. You see the bat's almost 12 noon to 6 o'clock.
And bounces away from Narvaez far enough for De La Cruz to go to second. So wild pitch goes the runner up. That's the 14th wild pitch for Senga this year. Not surprising given the number of forked balls he throws in the dirt. That was a curveball though. Away. De La Cruz at second with nobody out. Sanchez rolls one down to Alonso. Senga over to cover. De La Cruz goes to third, one away. So productive out by Sanchez. Moves the runner along. Garrett Hampson will come up. I'm sure the Mets will play their infield back with a 3-run lead.
I would think so. If anything, it would be maybe the third baseman on the cut of the grass. That would be Beatty, of course. Pete's kind of in nowhere's land. I would just play back.
Hampson will walk his first time up. He has 3 hits in this series. He takes the fastball high for ball 1. So he's given up leadoff base runners in 3 of the 4 innings, but he's excelled all year with runners in scoring position. The opposition hitting 192 against Kodai in RBI spots. And Hampson lefts one to center. This will get the run in. MOH is back in front of the warning track, makes the catch, and De La Cruz can walk on in with the first Miami run. It's 3-1 New York. Hampson drives in his second run of the series. A single, a wild pitch, and ground out of a sac fly, and the Marlins scratch out a run. So 2 out and nobody on that. John Birdie, who had infield hit his first time up, and chopper off home plate. You know what's interesting? We showed those ERA leaders in the National League: Snell, Steele, and Senga. Senga and Snell ranked 1-2 in the National League in wild pitches.
So Snell throws that hard curveball in the dirt.
Most of Senga's come on his forkball. Quickly 0-2 on Birdie. Birdie got the start at second base tonight, moved over to third after Berger had to come out of the game with an apparent quad injury. Still waiting word on DJ Stewart, who was scratched right before game time, although Anthony DeComo of MLB.com is reporting they had a big ice pack on his wrist before the game. So I don't know if that's what befell DJ and why he had to scratch. 1-2 now to Birdie. In any event, with Rafael Ortega into the lineup. Senga ahead on Birdie, 1-2. He lays off another splitter. Well, he has not been able to throw that forkball in competitive spots early on in this game.
He hasn't had his breaking ball either here. He's been erratic with his slider.
Now full count to Birdie. Cubs have gone in front of the Pirates 1-0 in the second. Seiya Suzuki with an RBI hit. Cubs a half game ahead of Miami for that third and final spot. And Birdie lines one over Alonso's glove into right field, a base hit. He's trying to bat by Birdie. Fell behind 0-2, laid off a couple of forkballs. Throw gets loose, but backed up by Narvaez. And Birdie's now 2 for 2.
Beautiful at bat. That was a good pitch. 3-2, and he went right with it. That's all you can do with that pitch, unless you're standing inches from on top of the plate.
Comes 4 hits now against Senga. We get the number 9 hitter, Stallings. Narvaez out of the mound, giving Senga a breather. It's just about letting him catch his breath as much as anything after a lot of pitches already in this inning. So here's Jacob Stallings, who flied out to center his first time up. Got Birdie, a base stealer at first. He's got 14 this year. And he takes an early jump and will steal without a throw. See so many base stealers this year get that running start.
Number 15.
And they time it perfectly so that the pitch clock is running down and the pitcher doesn't have a chance to step off, even if they yell out. So another runner in scoring position for the Marlins. 0-1 to Stallings. And he takes a strike on the outside edge. 0-2. So you can't get a swing on the fourth ball, and it's 1-2. He had Diamondbacks hitters swinging at that fourth ball innumerable times in his last start on Thursday.
It's just interesting how every start is different.
Got very few swings at that fourth ball so far tonight. Fastball fell back. We got one swing and miss on the fourth ball so far tonight. 1-2 coming. Hey, he gets one there. Strikes out Stallings to end the inning. Second strikeout for Senga. 3-1 New York.
All right, guys. So Kodai Senga gives up 1 run. Going to the top of the fifth, 3-1 Mets. Senga struggled a little bit with control a little bit. It gave up a couple of hits, obviously 1 run. But the Mets still lead by 2 going to the top of the fifth. So we'll see if Senga can go a little bit more deeper into the game. I think he has a little over 65, I think it's 67, 68 pitches. So he's right on point. A little higher pitch count than you want, but he can come in next inning and throw 8 pitches and be right back on track. So I would think he would go 6 or 7 today. It's just an opinion of mine, but I think he'll go 6 innings at the very least when it comes to Kodai Senga. So the Mets will have up 2, 3, 4, Mauricio, Alonso, and Lindor. See if they can put a couple more runs, give a little bit more breathing room for Kodai Senga. And I forgot who said it earlier in the chat, but yeah, the Mets continue to win a little bit and hurt their draft spot. Again, if they're one of the 6 teams, 6 spots in the draft, they get to keep that pick. If not, they drop down 10 spots in the draft. So again, it's looking like they're going to be either 7 or 8, 6, 7, or 8, basically, in the draft. And obviously, if they're not 6, they drop down 10 spots. So, crew, do I play video games? Occasionally, but not as much as I used to. What games do you play? I'm assuming MLB The Show, which I do have. I just don't really have the time to play, to be honest with you. That's probably the biggest reason why I don't play much anymore. All right, so top of the fifth, Mets lead 3-1. Another bullpen arm, JT Chargo, is in the game for the Marlins. Top 5, Mets lead 3-1. Again, I'll be right back, guys. Just listen to the game and enjoy the audio.
Mauricio leads off. He's been on base twice. It is with the key play in the 3rd inning. He had a base hit to right field. Demo went first to 3rd. The throw from right field by Sanchez went through, got away, and Demo was able to get up and score. Mauricio wound up in 3rd, and he scored on Alonso's sac fly. That's how the Mets built the 3-0 lead. He drives this one to center field, chasing Chisholm back a few strides, and he gets it going away to retire Mauricio 1 out. Got a little bit towards the end, I believe. A lot of gold going on that neck of Chisholm. Got to transfer it from the neck to the glove. It's got to be heavy. Here's Alonso at the sac fly in the 3rd, his 113th run batted in of the season. And he takes fastball for a strike, 0-1. Before last year, the lowest batting average for anybody with 45 home runs in the big league season is Carter fouled on the right field side, and that'll go out of play. The lowest batting average for a player with 45 home runs in a season in Major League history before last year was 237. So I can't say good did that back in the 80s. But then last year, Kyle Schwarber, and this year, both Schwarber and Alonso have batting averages far below that. Alonso came into the day hitting 221. Schwarber under 200. Swing and a miss at the slider, and Alonso's down on strike for the second time, 2 out.
Good late breaking slider comes out of strike and breaks out over the off the plate. Got beat the chase.
So, what do you make of that? I mean, Alonso's a guy who's hit for a higher average in the past. Schwarber seems to be more focused on drawing walks than getting any hits that aren't home runs. I mean, would you expect Pete, as he goes forward, to be a higher average hitter like he was the last couple of years?
Yes, I think Pete values his batting average. I just think he had the worst slump of his career here. And that hindered him right in the middle of the season where you've collected enough at bats. Anytime you get to 300 at bats, your batting average doesn't really fluctuate that much. And he had such a prolonged slump. It's hard to come back.
Lindor is 0 for 2, flied out both times, and swings and misses the slider out of the strike zone. It's 1-2. I mean, Schwarber seems perfectly content.
Schwarber doesn't care about his average. Schwarber's got over 100 walks. He's got over 100 runs scored.
To 99 RBI.
And he's going to get over 100 RBIs, and that's success from the leadoff hitter.
Lindor skies this one to shallow center, and on comes Chisholm. And that retires the side. 9-pitch hit.
All right, so the Mets do not score in the top of the fifth. Bottom of the fifth coming up. Mets lead 3-1. Kodai Senga going back on the mound for the Mets. Has a pitch count just under 70 going to the top of the fifth, bottom of the fifth. So pretty good chance if he has a couple of quick innings, could get to the 7th inning of the game and hopefully still with the lead. Oh, Christian, that's true, yes. Where they are right now, I think they're in the 7th spot right now. So we'll definitely see. So we'll definitely see if the Mets get bumped from their spot. Again, the way the Mets have been drafted in the last 2 years, I don't think obviously it matters sometimes where you draft, but the Mets have been extremely good in their last 2 drafts under Epler. So even if you do pick mid-level of the draft, the Mets have been picking, guys that, have been highly ranked, and they've been getting them later in the round. So I don't think that's, so much of a concern. Obviously, you want an earlier draft pick because you might get actually superstar. You never know. But they've been having good drafts under Epler, so I'm not too concerned about that, even though you would want a higher draft pick. But the Mets have been doing very well in the draft the last 2 years. And they've been building their farm system over the last couple of years. Obviously, it's been helped out by the trade deadline this year. So we'll see how that goes when the season's over. All right, so 3-1 Mets, top of the fifth, bottom of the fifth. Soler up.
Single. 2 for 7 in this series. Chisholm and Edwards to follow. Single's still trying to find his footing as he catches the outside corner. the strike. So the leadoff hitter on against him in 3 of the 4 innings, but he's given up just the 1 run over the first 4. And a ground ball, hot shot to the left of Lindor.
And that's a leadoff hit by Soler, just under the glove of Lindor.
Yet again, the Marlins get that leadoff man on.
Just not much from the slider here. I believe it was the slider. And there's Lindor just out of his reach. He's been on his belly a lot time. Yeah, that's a little cutter. He got it on the outside corner, but didn't have that much break. Boy, that's another heavy duty necklace there. Jeez. Wow.
Josh Chisholm's 0 for 2, 0 for 10 in the series. And he's hit it with fielder's choice and fouled out first. 2 games before the Mets arrived, while the Marlins were sweeping the Braves, Chisholm had grand slams in back-to-back games. First Marlin ever to do that. Well, now 0 for 10 in this series. Senga is not your normal pitcher in that he does not pay a third time through the order penalty. Look at that. Even better the third time through than he is the first or the second. And here is his third time through the order tonight. Behind, though, on Chisholm 2-0, it's Xavier Edwards on deck. And that's rifled down the right field line, and that's a base hit for Chisholm. Cut off nicely by McNeil. Chisholm heads for second. The relay ball
Got him at second, yeah. Excellent play by Jeff McNeil, cutting that ball off. Hit the cutoff man of Mauricio. Mauricio guns him out at second base. So first out of the inning, but the runner does go to third. 1 out. Nice play all around defensively. McNeil cutting that ball off, and Mauricio getting that cut and being the cutoff man and throwing a bullet to Lindor to get Chisholm at second. Good job. That play does not develop if he doesn't hit the cutoff man. Excellent play.
Very, very poor choice. His team down 2 runs.
He had it right in front of him. He had to see that McNeil had cut that ball off.
No doubt about it.
So a runner at third with 1 out, corners in because Edwards will bunt. Middle infielders will stay back with a 2-run lead.
So it was his call all the way, and that was just a very bad one. Bad choice. Because he is out by a country mile.
His first hit of the series results in an out. 1-0 to Edwards. He's had 1 at bats. He's taking over Berger's spot in the batting order. Berger left with an apparent quad injury in the 3rd inning. Edwards hit into a fielder's choice. Ground ball to Alonso his first time up. Soler at third with 1 out. And again, Senga behind 2-0 as he was on Chisholm. And Edwards fouls off the fastball 2-1.
Senga's been behind a lot of batters in this game. 78 pitches, 1 out in the 5th.
But I love how Senga's not afraid. Behind the count, struggling with his secondary pitches, not afraid to go after the hitters.
Nice pitch, 2-2.
Fourth ball for a strike, and it's 2-2.
Now here's McNeil again, fully outstretched. He's just such an athlete.
No matter where you put him, he finds a way to make his mark defensively.
He does. He is a plus defender in the both corner outfield positions and second base.
So they give away a Gold Glove for a utility player last year, and there is every reason for Jeff McNeil to be a contender for that award.
I agree 100%.
2-2 coming, and it's hooked in the air. To
Fly ball. Let's see. McNeil gets it. Got him. Yeah. All right. What a throw by Jeff McNeil. 2 great defensive plays by Jeff McNeil to save a run. And Jeff McNeil looking excellent in right field and saves the run for the Mets. 3-1 Mets What a throw by Jeff McNeil. Wasn't hit very far, was shallow, and gets him with an excellent throw to end the inning. Very, very good. McNeil was the star of that inning for sure defensively. Excellent play all around. Going to the top of the sixth, Mets lead 3-2-1. Excellent. McNeil can play anywhere, guys. Would have been lovely to see all this fun and exciting team in June, but what can you do? You can't change the past. You can only do what you can in the present, right? But excellent play, cutting off that ball and right down the line, getting Chisholm at second base for the second out, or for the first out, then gets a shallow fly ball and guns the runner coming home to end the inning to save a run. So Mets still lead 3-1, going to the top of the sixth. Senga, 80 pitches, 79 pitches on the night. Looking like he's going to pitch the sixth with no issue, maybe even 7 innings to get that ERA even down even more for a guy that a lot of people think that he wasn't going to pitch that as well as he did this year. Jay, all we can hope for, right? As Met fans, all we have is hope. Let's be honest. Isn't that the truth? So the Mets will have McNeil, go figure, right? 2 great defensive plays. And guess who leads off the inning? Jeff McNeil. Maybe he can go full circle and hit a home run. How about that? So we got McNeil, Ortega, and Vientos. 6, 7, 8. I'm sorry. 5, 6, 7. Excuse me. 5, 6, 7 coming up. Jeff McNeil leading off. And they're showing the plays right now. Excellent throw. 1 bounce right to Navarez. Good job.
A, it comes in on it, gets momentum forward. B, gets the cutoff man.
Good job.
C, 1 hop for the catcher. Perfect.
Let me ask you a question about the slide. If Soler comes straight into home plate, does he beat that play as opposed to trying to go in the back with his arm?
I think he's out, but I think he could have come in and knocked Narvaez for a loop. I know it's not in the game anymore, but once Narvaez makes the catch and comes to make the tag, and he's in front of home plate.
Another relief pitcher for the Marlins. Soriano.
Was in. The 4th Marlins pitcher of the night. McNeil leading off after his wonderful defensive inning. And he takes a strike. McNeil had a 9-pitch walk his last time up, which is very unusual for Jeff. As the years have gone along, he's got fewer and fewer pitches per plate appearance. This year, just 3.39, which is awfully low. Fly ball out
And hits a fly ball. Should be the first out. And it is. 1 out.
Let's check in with the studio. Even McEnany has a game break brought to you by Honda.
Rubber game between the Phils and the Braves, tied at 4 in the top of the 10th. Bases loaded for Bryson Stott. He sends this one down the left field line. That scores Johan Rojas and Bryce Harper to give the Phillies the lead. Phillies win at 6-5.
Rafael Ortega went around in the half swing. Ortega up for the 3rd time. He's popped up and flied out. Sorrell gets the slider in for a strike at 0-2. Yuri Perez started with 3 innings, allowed 3 runs, 2 earned on 3 against Stephen Okert and JT Shotwhite. Gave the Marlins a scoreless inning, and now Soriano working the 6th. Threw 6 straight strikes to start the inning. Sinker slider pitcher. Others still leading the Pirates 1-0 in the 4th. Behind Justin Steele. Sitting in that 3rd spot, half a game in front of the Marlins. And Ortega goes down on strikes.
And 2 outs. Strikeout by for Ortega.
So 6 straight Mets have been retired by the Miami bullpen. 2 out and nobody on. Now Mark Vientos, who opened the scoring tonight with his 6th home run of the year.
All right, Vientos up.
The first pitch sliders fouled off, 0-1. Soriano was just 24 years old. His big league debut this year with the Marlins, his 24th appearance. 8 pitches, all for strikes, and make it 9 for 9. It's your T-Mobile coverage cam. Mark Vientos opening the scoring in the second.
He got himself a hanging slider that stayed on the inside corner, and he turned on it. Number 6.
And Soriano throws a slider, and Vientos just got a piece of it to hang in there. So Soriano's had problem with walks, 20 walks in 47 innings. He's thrown 10 straight strikes to start this inning. He's had 4 straight scoreless appearances and walked only 1 in those 4, so things have gotten better for him in that regard. Kodai Senga, a little hydration between innings.
Vientos hits another one. That ball is way out of here. Second home run of the day for Mark Vientos. Number 9 on the season, 4-1 Mets. He crushed, home run number 7, He crushed that ball. Hanging slider, and he just launched that ball to left field. 109 miles an hour off the bat. And his first 2 home run game of his career from Mark Vientos. Showing off the power. Oh boy, was that a hanger. Huh. That ball was on a tee. Hit that to the back of the first deck in left field. 4-1 Mets. Wow, that was a shot. He knew it right away, too. Turned on that one.
Twice he's gotten 0-2 sliders leading out of the ballpark. Once from Yuri Perez and now from George Soriano.
By the way, both of his home runs were on 0-2 pitches.
First career multi-home run game. And the Mets once again have a 3-run lead. Let's go all the way to Beatty, 2 balls and strike. He's showing him where it landed. He knows all about trying to locate where you hit long runs.
Round ball should end the inning, and it does, but not before. Mark Vientos hits his second home run of the game. Mets get back the 3-run lead that they had before. Bottom of the 6th, 4-1 Mets. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit on that like button. The more likes we get, the more this will be at the top of the list for people that want to see this type of content and to replay this stream later on, to check it out later on in the day. That is your job, guys, to hit on that like button. So, once again, guys, it is looking very, very good for Mark Vientos as of late. Just has been crushing the ball, has been just performing better what we've seen in the minor leagues. Power, just a pure hitter at the plate. And you get, look, you know, you can talk about him not playing enough, not getting, but you know, you take your chances, you take the opportunities, and you take advantage of those opportunities. And right now, Vientos is, again, there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made with a lot of these guys, right? You know, you got Mauricio up now. You know, the infield is kind of jam-packed right now. You know, you got Vientos, you got Mauricio, you got Beatty, you got McNeil. You know, they all can't play third and second base, right? So there's got to be a decision. Is McNeil going to be the one going to the outfield next year, maybe playing left field on an everyday basis, being the everyday left fielder? Is Brett Beatty going to be a third baseman? Or is it going to be Mauricio? Or is it going to be Vientos? There's a pretty good chance that Mauricio is going to be playing, going to get second or third base. Just a matter of, are the Mets going to give Brett Beatty the position or going to make him earn it? I think that's something that's going to be talked about once spring training comes along and once we know the final rosters, we'll have a better idea of what they're going to do. So, but they're performing, and I rather have a tough decision than no decision at all, right? I'd rather have multiple guys and make it a harder decision to make. All right, bottom of the sixth, Kodai Senga still in the ballgame. Mets lead 4-1. Josh Bell up to lead off the inning for Miami.
Oh, someone's falling asleep. The bulbs are out. I know it's been a long year, but
Maybe they think if they don't put it up there, it won't count.
there it is.
There you go. Hallelujah. Somebody's listening. Bell is 0 for 2 tonight, flat out, grounded out, 1 for 10 in the series. And Senga fires a fastball inside, 3 balls and a strike. Senga, unlike his last start, not very effective with that ghost forkball. And Bell drives one to deep left.
That might be gone, and it is a leadoff home run in the sixth for Josh Bell and makes it a 2-run ball game once again. 21st home run of the season for Josh Bell. 4-2 Mets. Bottom six, nobody out. That was a shot.
He's picked up the power in Miami. 21 for the year now.
So that 3-run lead got washed out. Right back to a 2-run lead.
Senga's given up this year. 13 of the 15 have been solo shots. Ryan De La Cruz. And he takes curveball to dirt.
he likes the ball down on the left side. And he's really kind of an all or nothing hitter. Reaction to Senga.
That was a shot. Left that right over the plate. Knew it right off the bat.
17 feet worth of knowledge. De La Cruz takes the forkball down, 2 balls and a strike. Senga's given up 15 home runs this year. None of them have come on his forkball. He's upstairs with a cutter, and it's 2-2. That's pretty amazing. For all the forkballs he's thrown, almost 700 of them this year.
You think someone would get a hold of one?
At some point, but it hasn't happened yet. So tonight is a milestone.
Hey guys, listen to the game. I'll be back in a bit.
Technological advances. For the first time, our ace statistician Dave Freed is joining us remotely and giving us statistical notes via the iPad. Watching the game on a special monitor. We've got the iPad right here, and Dave's been doing some research for us, and he just came up with a great note about Jeff McNeil's 2 assists in the last inning. They went back as far as 1974. The last 50 years. It's a hot shot for Beatty to handle, and he has it played. Makes a perfect throw to get De La Cruz one way. The only other Met outfielder to have 2 assists in the same inning in the last 50 years was Bernard Gilkey in 1996. Wow. And now McNeil joins Gilkey in that rarefied company.
And Dave's working from home, correct?
Dave is working at home. He's got a special feed, so he doesn't have the delay that you normally get on the broadcast. And he's He's able to deliver us information in real time. Fly ball out to left off the bat of Sanchez, and Ortega's got it 2 out. I rather like this setup because nobody, no matter where we go, nobody's as good as Dan.
And then you and him, you can't bicker at each other.
Well, also, what's really good about it is that when we're home, he writes notes to us.
And he gives his writing is terrible.
It's very, very hard to read his writing, but on the iPad,
It's all printed out.
I can read it.
I wonder how his wife feels about him working from home.
And he doesn't talk to us either because he's very hard to understand. So the communication is 1,000,000% better this way. Maybe when we have home games, we'll keep him at home and let him communicate.
And we don't have to hear the accent.
Doesn't have to push me out of the way when he comes and goes to his seat in our little tiny booth. Garrett Hampson has walked and hit a sacrifice fly tonight. Takes the fourth ball inside low. It's 1-1. It's not the first time this year that a player's had 2 outfield assists in 1 inning. Joey Weimer did it for the Brewers earlier this year. The slider was outside, 2 balls and strike to Hampson. McNeil. I mean, it wasn't just the 2 assists. It was the way he cut the ball off of the corner on Chisholm's hit. Yeah, that was the most spectacular part of the whole inning. Second behind on Hampson, 3-1. Kodai's walked 2 tonight. He struck out only 2. And Trevor Gods, who took the loss last night, is up in the 6th inning tonight. 3-1 coming. And Hampson tops 1 foul. 3-2. This has been the story for Senga all year. When he's dominant, he puts up huge strikeout numbers. And when he's not dominant, he's still awfully good.
He weaves his way through.
Certainly has not been dominant tonight. So just because I don't feel good doesn't mean I fold up and give up the game. Correct. He has certainly made the Mets better by his presence.
And anybody that would fold his 10 wouldn't be in the big leagues very long.
When you see guys who implode early in games and they get knocked out early, really not happen to Senga at all in his rookie season. Mentioned earlier, it's his 28th start, and that's only had a handful of pitchers since Dwight Gooden and Ron Darling in 1984 to make this many starts in a season. The last was John Neese. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming from Senga to Hampson. And he got it looking at a breaking ball. Nicely done by Senga for his 3rd strikeout of the night. Bell's home run makes it closer, but the Mets up 4-2 after 6.
All right, guys. So Senga gets through 6 innings, just giving up that 1 run. And they said it in the broadcast, if you guys heard. Right? What they said exactly, right? That Kodai Senga, even when he doesn't have his best stuff, he finds a way to get through a game, keep your team in it, keep leads. He's just a guy that bears down even when he doesn't have his best stuff. Like tonight, doesn't have his best stuff, but got through 6 innings, only 2 runs at the moment, and maintaining the lead for the Mets. And I think that's very important as a pitcher, that you see a lot of pitchers when they don't have it early, it's rare. There's only a few, maybe about a handful of pitchers that start off bad and just continue to keep their team in the ball game to give them a chance to win. And I think Senga's done that a lot this year. And I think that's important to, especially as a guy like that. So Cobra says, as a Padres fan, let's go Mets. Paul, you're right about that. We haven't seen a lot of teams without pride. The Mets are trying, I don't want to say, I guess pride. It is nice to see them, get excited for a nice defensive play, throwing out McNeil throwing out the runner at set at home, I like to see that a lot of the time. Exactly, Paula. Jacob deGrom. Exactly. Even when Jacob deGrom wasn't on his A game, he would still keep your team in the game. Chance to win. And that's all you can ask for a guy who doesn't have his best stuff that day. I think that's important. So we're going to the top of the 7th. 4-2 Mets. Mets will have up 9-1-2. Navarez, Nimmo, Mauricio. When the game gets back going, I will put the audio back on and see you after the inning is over. Here we go.
Dave Magadan also wore 10 part of his career, but he wore 29 for part of his career. And there's Terry Collins, who wore number 10 as the skipper for his 9 years with the Mets.
Did you say you had the longest tenure?
Rusty had the longest tenure. He wore for 10 years. Omar Narvaez leads off for the Mets in the 7th against George Soriano, who's working his second inning of relief. Fastball high, and it's 2-0. So we got 2 home runs from Mark Vientos tonight. They got 2 gift runs in the 3rd when the Marlins threw the ball around.
How were the trees?
Nice.
So far, with Senga going 6, that's enough for a 42 lead. Call strike 2-1. And we're probably done after 99 pitches. Another job well done on a night when he certainly was not at his best. So we're going to miss by Narvaez 2-2. But Drew Smith gets up in the bullpen. When you look at Senga's those 4 tonight, he threw it 17 times, got only 5 swings and only 2 misses. So on a night where the forkball really just was not working for him, he was able to find a different way.
Ran his strikeout total down. Only 3 strikeouts.
Which gets him to 194 with 1 start remaining. And Narvaez takes strike 3 call, a little backup slider on the outside corner. And he pauses to fuss with Chris Siegel, the home plate umpire, about it. Second strikeout for Soriano. Janae and Bart discuss how the offense can get off to a fast start in Week 3 as the Jets look to end their misfortunes against Bill Belichick and the Patriots on Jets Game Plan, presented by Dime Bank, Thursday at 6:30, only on SNY.
0-2 Patriots. Lost their first 2 home games.
I don't know much about it, Keith, but I do know that there was a Boston radio sports talk host today who called for Belichick to be fired.
Oh, gosh.
Some guys will say just about anything to get attention. Nimmo's been on base twice in this game with a single to center and a walk. He's 1 for 2. 5 hits and 12 at-bats in this series. He takes a slider for a strike. The Marlins just announced that Jake Berger left the game with right quad tightness. I think we had a pretty good notion about that. He's back in the 3rd inning. Mets still have not announced why B.J. Stewart was scratched from the lineup almost before the game began. The top swing foul at the first baseline. Still 1-2. Marlins had to go to their bullpen early. Yuri Perez went just 3 innings through 69 pitches. He gave up 3 runs, 2 of them earned on 3 hits. Stephen Oakert and J.T. Chagouin each went a scoreless inning. Or Soriano gave up Vientos' second home run in the 6th. It's the Bobblehead Museum in the lobby here at Marlins Park.
Yeah, it's quite a display.
That's driven toward the gap in right center field by Nimmo, and that ball's a short hop the wall. Nimmo on his way to second, and he's got yet another extra base hit. His 28th double of the year. And the Mets have a runner in scoring position with 1 out.
Well, one thing I've noticed about Brandon of late, he gets that sinker, goes out and gets it, a little flick of the wrist. That's a wristy swing, beautiful. Yeah, he's got 140 strikeouts, Gary, but the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, his strikeouts have been, as he's cutting back, and he's become really a good 2-strike hitter. He always has been. But you look at the 140 strikeouts and go, oh, okay, no, there's no way. No, he has really turned it on here the last couple of weeks.
Ryan Mauricio's 1 for 2 and a walk. Retired on the line drive to center field his last time up.
Keith, to that point you were just making, Nimmo said a couple of weeks ago that he's got to find a middle ground, that he thought he went a little too far one way, chasing those extra base hits and that power, and that he needs to find a bit of a hybrid so when he gets 2 strikes again, kind of fall back to the old approach as well.
That's music to my ears. And really, the September results are telling. Setting over 325 in September, 2 more hits tonight, 6 in this series.
You know, looking to do damage, that's the new jargon on a pitch. Looking for my pitch so I can do damage. When you're behind the count, you haven't got that luxury. You've got to battle. I know you like that term, Gary. But when you got 2 strikes, you can't let it all hang out. You've got to go down and bear down on hit line drives. And Nimmo has really, really shown me something with 2 strikes of late.
Mauricio fooled on a 3-1 slider, full count. Alonso waiting on deck. In second with 1 out, 3-2 to Mauricio. And Ronnie takes ball 4, and he's on base for the 3rd time tonight. So Mauricio, who had walked only 3 times before tonight, has walked twice in this game. Some of fun facts on the number 10. Shingo Takatsu. Remember Shingo Takatsu? He joined the Mets in 2005.
I don't.
It was in Miami, and Willie Randolph brought him into a game to face Miguel Cabrera in a big spot, and Cabrera hit a double off the wall. And Willie said after the game, I went to Shingo Takatsu because he had the funk. But the funk did not work that day for Shingo Takatsu, who had some good years with the White Sox, but that was his memorable outing as a Met.
Okay, I completely forgot. I have no recollection of that.
That's why you have me here. You gotta have that funk.
There's a couple songs with funk.
Yes, there are many songs.
Many
funky songs. Parliament Funkadelic. Okay, let's move on. Here's Pete Alonso with 2 on and 1 out. He does sacrifice fly tonight for his 113th RBI. Struck out his other 2 at-bats. Just 1 for his last 19. A chance to do some game breaking here in the 7th. With Nemo at second and Mauricio at first. Slider misses down for ball 1. Robertson faced the Mets in the opening game of this series. Getting ready to face his former teammates again. That's 4 runs, 6 hits. The Marlins 2 runs and 7 hits. We're in the 7th.
Is it? Oh, it was an older one. See, I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Alonso throws 1 foul on a changeup, and it's 1-1.
I can see his legs now.
Well, they're really giving Pete that line. Pete's been on full mode.
That's line toward left center field. A base hit for Alonso. Nimmo around third. He'll come in to score. Headed to third, Mauricio. Alonso stumbled coming around the bag at first, but he gets back safely. Second RBI of the night for Alonso. It's 114th of the year, and it's now 5-2 New York.
Tell you what, he hits when there's men on base. That's a fastball up and out over the plate, not trying to do too much with it. He's an RBI machine. Mauricio goes to third and makes the turn. There's your contact. Look towards the end. I said Pete was on full mode. I think he's got his sights. He wants 50.
Skip Schumacher will make a pitching change. He's got David Robertson ready. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Nissan. Shop NissanUSA.com.
Took him away.
All right, guys. So there's a pitch and change. Another run scored for the Mets. Christian, exactly. So again, it's a long shot, obviously, but you know the way these games have gone and the way the teams in the National League have gone. I mean, would you be shocked if they don't win 3 more games? I mean, you never know. Like, look, you're not mathematically out until you're mathematically out. It's just that simple. So, what are you gonna do? It is what it is. Just got to deal with it. And once the game starts back up, I'll put the audio back on and see you after the inning is over. So Mets lead 5-2. Mets are still threatening here with first and third and 1 out. See what the Mets can get a couple more runs here. It looks like Senga is going to be done for the night with 99 pitches in the 6th. So we'll see and wait for that, and then we'll be ready to go. But nice to see some offense that we haven't seen in a while. Yeah, well, Teddy, yeah, 8 years. Yeah, I think that's what, I don't think the Mets mind doing that, but a report just came out about an hour ago that there's a couple of reports now that Alonso's exing for 10 years, Teddy. So, I mean, I don't think the Mets are going to go 10 years. So, I think they're going to come to a middle ground, and 8 years is probably going to be their max. They could do that too, Alien. But then again, I mean, it's not like the Cubs have been world beaters either. So, all right, David Robertson is in the game for the Marlins. Mets are winning 5-2. First and third, 1 out. Let's see what they can do. I'll be right back, guys. Listen to the audio.
Pitched in the opening game of the series Monday night, gave up 2 hits, including 1 to Francisco Lindor, who's the first man to face him. First and third and 1 out, a run home in the inning, 5-2 New York. Mauricio at third, Alonso at first with 1 out. Lindor tonight is 0 for 3, 2 for 11 in the series. And he takes the cutter on the outside corner for a strike, and it's 1-1. Big doings in Chicago, where the Pirates scored 7 runs in the 4th inning and knocked out Justin Steele. And the Pirates lead the Cubs 7-1. So the Marlins with an opportunity here. And we're a half game behind Chicago for the last wild card berth coming into the night. Reds lost, Giants lost. 2 teams at the top of the wild card race, Philadelphia and Arizona, both won this afternoon. There goes Alonso, swinging a ground ball hit to the right side. The runner will score, and Hampson has to throw it to first. Gets the out there. So with Alonso in motion, it's an RBI ground out for Lindor, bringing Mauricio home to make it 6-2. There's a call there. Not sure if that was a design hit and run or just Alonso running on his own.
Well, putting the ball in play, a bit surprised they would not have brought the infield in. They played back for 2. And that's not hit hard enough. You put the ball in play, you got some things happen.
Well, with Alonso going, even if he hit it hard, it turned 2. So Mets have scratched out 2 runs in this inning, and they've got a 4-run lead for the first time tonight. Jeff McNeil's 0 for 2 in a walk after 5 hits in the first 2 games of the series. And slider fouled off 1-1. Well, the Mets got 2 very young prospects in the deal for David Robertson. which was the first of the moves that they made in July. Marco Vargas, a young midfielder, Ronald Hernandez, a young catcher. So who knows? Well, Robertson was great as a Met. He's been not so great as a Marlin. Fly the other way by McNeil, but right at De La Cruz, who makes the catch. He was lost in the lights, but he's got it to end the inning. That's it, 2 and leads 6-2 at the second base.
Thursday. Can the Jets finally end their misfortunes against Bill Belichick and the Patriots? Janae and Bart preview how the offense can get off to a fast start in Week 3 on Jets Game Plan, presented by Dime Bank. Thursday at 6:30, only on SNY.
Joe, we're cartoons. This is the perfect way to podcast now that we're on YouTube. I don't know. This feels prohibitively expensive.
Everything you need to know about your team from Queens. The Mets Pod, presented by Tri-State Cadillac. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcast.
Attention shoppers, we have lowered prices.
All right, guys. So the Mets take a 6-2 lead, going to the bottom. Oh, I just got knocked off. Sorry. All right. So Mets take a 6-2 lead, going to the bottom of the 7th. Looking good so far. The bullpen's going to come in for the Mets, and we'll be ready to get that 7th inning started. Well, I know people are talking about the Jets right now. So, yep, it's about time the Jets to beat the Patriots, huh? At home, no less. Going to be an interesting game for sure. So, I see who's coming in for Drew Smith is coming in the 7th for the Mets to hold on to a 6-2 lead. Everybody's favorite pitcher, Drew Smith, with his 4.47 ERA. Pretty good chance Drew Smith will give up a home run at some point. It's just his MO. Yeah, Teddy, I think so too. All right, so obviously 10 games after today. After today, 4 with the Phillies, 3 with the Marlins, and then 3 with the Phillies again. And that's the way we're going to wrap up the season. Yeah, Paul, I saw that. It was the Miami Patriot game where the Miami fan, you heard about that? The Miami Dolphins fan punched the Patriot fan twice, and then he died. Yeah, it's crazy. So here we go. Drew Smith on the mound, bottom of the 7th, 6-2 Mets.
Bryson Stott at second base is one of the best defenders in Major League Baseball. Is 16 outs above average, is 4th most in the entire league. And Johan Rojas, he's a kid that they brought up in center field straight from AA in mid-July. He has been a revelation out in center field. He's got the 6th most defensive runs saved in all of Major League Baseball amongst all outfielders. And again, that's an accumulated stat. He's only played about half of the season. So defensively, they are much, much better. He's also hitting pretty well, hitting over 300 in his time in the big leagues. On the negative end, we know about the trade they made at the deadline for Michael Lorenzen, his second start pitching a no-hitter. Since that time, he has really fallen off, has an ERA hovering right around 10 in the last 6 outings. Yesterday, he was moved to the bullpen, made his first outing out of the bullpen, gave up 4 runs, got just 1 out, and that out wasn't recorded until his 37th pitch of the outing.
That Stott, I should say, Rojas in center field has been so good in 49 games. 49 games, he's plus 14 defensive runs saved, and he's been so good. They moved Brandon Marsh, who's a pretty good center fielder in his own right, to left, and they're now shading Marsh toward the line because Rojas covers so much ground, and that's enabled Marsh to make that many more plays. And that's how much better the Phillies have gotten defensively in the outfield.
That was one of the things that the Phillies addressed last season when they made all those moves. They got rid of people and brought in new people with trades, and they really improved their defense because they were poor fundamental team and a poor defensive team. Hey, Gary, I got to ask you one thing, right? You know that I'm always looking somehow, some way to give you guys something that maybe you wouldn't know, maybe you wouldn't already talk about. How do you know that Rojas has been so good that they're changing the way that they are setting up March along the line? How do you know that?
There was a big article with The Athletic just a couple of days ago about it.
Oh, okay. Well, guess I better get on that.
John Birdie's already stolen a base in this game. He's got 18 steals in 43 career games against the Mets.
Take that, Steve.
Starting his tenure away.
Hey, I'm just curious, Steve. I'm trying to get better every day. This guy's a machine.
Gary is, no doubt about it. Just trying to keep up on what's going on. I mean, you know that Aaron Nola had been struggling coming into today. An ERA over 8 in his last 3 starts, but they pitched much better today in their win over the Braves, and that's certainly got to be a huge relief for them. Because Zach Wheeler's really been carrying that rotation of late. Jacob Stallings at the plate. And he fouls off the slider from Smith, 1-2.
The Phillies took 2 out of 3 from the Braves.
Braves have now lost 6 of their last 7.
They are really
hard to believe.
Yeah. A little bit of a lurch.
Rally up in the Mets bullpen. Meanwhile, Matt Moore is up in the Miami bullpen, getting ready for his Marlins debut. Double play ball from Stallings, right to Lindor. The turn by Mauricio for the 6-4-3 double play. 2 out and nobody on. How about the way Mauricio stands in there? I agree. With the speed of Birdie. Now, I know you can't take out second baseman the way you used to, but look how close Birdie is to him, and he doesn't flinch an inch.
He has shown me a lot of poise and really turns it well at second base. Plus, he's got that strong arm.
Yes, he does. 2 out and nobody on now. Jorge Soler has been on base 3 times already tonight with a walk and 2 singles. He was on base 4 times last night, so he's reached base safely 7 times in his last 8 appearances. Johnny Cueto up in the Marlins bullpen. I don't know if he's just getting some work in or if he's warming up to come into the game. Matt Moore had been up and he's still up alongside Cueto. He's been out of the rotation this year because of injuries. It's always a joyous event watching Johnny Cueto pitch. Fastball, this is a little bit up and in to Soler, 2-1. Slider for a strike, and it's 2-2. Kodai Senga went 6, allowed 2 runs, 7 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a wild pitch, a home run, 100 pitches. ERA goes up just a tick from 2.95 to 2.96, still 3rd in the National League. Although the way Justin Steele got hit around tonight. Let's see what Steele's ERA is coming out of that outing. Give up 6 runs in 3 innings. Yeah, he's up to 3.00, so that means that Senga's now 2nd behind Blake Snell in the National League in ERA. How about that? I think Snell is going to be the runaway winner of the Cy Young, but Senga will get a whole lot of votes. I think they vote top 5 for the Cy Young. So he will definitely get a lot of down ballot votes. Swing and a miss. Soler down to one knee as he can't catch up with Smith.
All righty, guys. So Smith doesn't give up any runs, gets that big double play, going to the top of the 8th. Mets lead 6-2. Mets will have up Ortega, Vientos, and Beatty. Vientos gonna get one more opportunity to maybe hit his 3rd home run of the day. Already has 2 on the night. Let's just see. So, once again, guys, if you're just tuning in or have not hit on that like button yet, you guys know what to do. Hit on that like button. Guys have done a good job with that like button and making sure more people actually been watching it, checking out the stream after it's been posted. So, that's also cool. I agree, Elian. I talked about that earlier with Kodai Senga. Again, there's no going into next year. I think you can feel confident that Senga's your number 2. You know, who's your number 1? Again, I still believe the Mets are going to go after Corbin Burnes in a trade. I still believe that. And, you know, we all know about Yamamoto. I mean, if the Mets find a way to get Corbin Burnes in a trade and sign Yamamoto, you're going to have Corbin Burnes, Senga, Yamamoto as your 1, 2, 3. And then you can mess around with your 4 and 5, right? Quintana's going to be back. I have no problem with him being your number 4. And your number 5 can be, I mean, a couple of guys. You know, it could be Joe Casey, could be Tyler McGill, David Peterson, Mike Vazel, one of the guys that looks like he's going to get a shot in spring training to make win a spot in the rotation. So, yeah, I agree, Jay. I agree. Sorry. So, with that said, top of the 8 coming up. Mets are up by 4, and see if they can get some more done. Johnny Cueto coming into the ball game. Wow. There we go. Johnny Cueto coming into the ball game. 6-2 Mets, top of the 8.
Well, he's only made 9 starts this year. A lot of time on the injured list. He's had himself quite a career. 144 career wins. Started out with the Reds, briefly in Kansas City, then 7 years with the Giants before coming to Miami this year. Rafael Ortega, first man to face him in the 8th inning. Mets leading 6-2. Cutter misses inside, a ball to strike. They won 20 games with the Reds in 2014. There's the hesitation delivery.
Yes.
Flat ball foul down the left field line. De La Cruz up against the sidewall, and he makes the catch. De La Cruz has been going to that sidewall all day. He had one that he slid for that he didn't get, but he's caught a couple of others, and he makes that play for the first down in the 8th. That year in 2014, Cueto threw 243 innings, which led the league, and 242 strikeouts, which led the league. Nice job on the fan to get a ball out of the play.
Very good. A fan could have made the play.
Cueto's last big year was in 2016 with the Giants. He went 18-5, 2.79. Here's Mark Vientos, who's homered twice tonight. Both times on 0-2 pitches. We've gone back and researched back to 2000. And Vientos is the first Met since then to have 2 home runs in the same game on 0-2 pitches. Give a chance this time. It's inside a ball and strike. The last big leaguer to have 2 home runs in a game on 0-2 pitches, the guy who's playing in this game, Garrett Hampson with the Rockies in 2021. And Vientos hits 1-2. Hampson has it, spins, and throws him out. Hampson 2 out.
Maybe you can use a knock right here. 0-3 tonight with 2 punch-outs.
He's playing for the first time in a week. Missed 6 games with some groin soreness. He takes outside for ball 1. With a quick pitch, and it's fouled back. Just never know with Cueto. Sometimes he'll make like Louis Tion to turn his back. Sometimes he'll hang his leg. Sometimes he'll go direct to the plate. More Johnny Cueto right now than we've ever seen before. That's driven to right field, deep by Beatty, and that's going to sail out of here into the second.
All right, Brett Beatty, second deck, finally. That's the power I want to see from Beatty. 7-2 Mets. That's a shot. Woo.
With that knock.
Shot by Beatty. Love it. That's the power that we've seen in the minors. He turned on that ball.
Let's take a look. Old fastball right down the inner half. Turned on it. High.
Bias flies one to left center. Back in the gap goes Chisholm, and he's got it at the edge of the warning track. 2 at the inning. Beatty's on one edge.
All right, guys. So the Mets take a 7-2 lead going to the bottom of the 8th. Brett Beatty showing off his power. He is strong as all hell. And, you know, we've seen a lot of that in the minors, all those highlights of him hitting home runs. And nice to see. And, you know, I would love to see Brett Beatty. I love his swing. I still think he's going to be a good hitter. Again, hopefully he proves me wrong. I don't want him to be a bust because I really like Brett Beatty. But, you know he has the power. He's just got to adjust to the way these pitchers are pitching him in the majors. Teams have figured him out. He's got to adjust and figure it out how to be a better hitter. I believe he can be a really good hitter. I believe he can easily be a 260 hitter with 25 home runs, 88, 85 RBIs. I take that every day of the week. I think he can be that good. You ain't kidding, Christian. So, bottom of the 8th, Mets lead 7-2. Marlins are coming up. They got 2, 3, 4 coming up. Mets are looking to take 2 out of 3 in Miami and hurt Miami's chances just a little bit more of making the playoffs. Taking 2 out of 3, and they still got a couple more games to go with them. 3 more games to go with Miami. 7 more to go with the Philadelphia Phillies. So that's what we are waiting for. But I really like to knock out Miami out of the playoffs, and the Mets do have an opportunity to do that. But I would love to go like 6-1 against the Phillies. Well, easy. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, right? And that's why I get so frustrated with this season. Because of the fact you're going to tell me, even with the Mets' struggles, the Mets overall are a better team than most of these teams that are fighting for a wild card spot at the end of the year. Right? I was going over this a couple of weeks ago. Besides a 2-week stretch by each one of these teams, the Giants, the Cubs, the Marlins, the Reds, and even the Padres, who's had a good 2-week stretch. During the time of June and July, those teams had a 2-week stretch where they won like 13 out of 16, 14 out of 16, those type of numbers, those type of wins in a certain amount of games. Other than that, they've been basically a little better than a 500 team. Like, there's a pretty good chance that the second and third wild card might have 86, 7 wins, and I don't even think it's going to be that much. All right, Brooks Raley is in a bowl game, bottom of the 8th, 7-2 Mets.
Had some real fine accomplishments in this game. 2 home runs from Vientos for the first time in the big leagues. 2 outfield assists in 1 inning from McNeil, a rarely accomplished feat. Kodai Senga getting through his 28th start, keeping his ERA under 3. Beatty snapping a long home run drought. And the Mets 6 outs away from taking the rubber game of this series from the Marlins. And Chisholm swings and misses at the slider, and it's 2-2. Drew Smith worked a hitless inning behind second.
Which Chisholm, we mentioned, has had difficulties on the interstate batting average-wise against left-handers.
And he strikes out on the slider away. And Relly's got to strike out to start the 8th.
Good job by Relly.
No, just slider. Look at the fanning flying out. He's not staying in, and he's going to have trouble.
The Cubs are trying to come back against the Pirates. Cubs were down 8-1 in that game, but they scored 5 runs in the 5th inning. It's now the Pirates 8 and the Cubs 6. It happened. Christopher Morel hit home runs for Chicago. Xavier Edwards batting right-handed for the first time tonight. Fouls one back. And it's 0-2. So the Cubs were down by 7 runs. Now they're right back in that game, and that's a great import to the Marlins.
Look, the Cubs are leading the third wild card, and they're 3-7 in their last 10. Look, a lot of these teams 6-4, 5-5, 4-6. That's been like that almost the entire year. All of those teams have had a 2-week stretch where they were extremely good. Other than that, they've been hovering around 500 win totals. And really struck out his second batter, 2 outs.
It's not exactly shut it down yet, but I think he's heading them out the ring.
Oh, she went to popcorn from M&M's.
Oh, well, now she has a bigger box to play with when she's done. Josh Bell homered his last time up. That was as a left-hand batter. Now he bats right-handed and takes a strike. Bell's home run was his 21st of the year.
Brady's got a good hard sinker tonight.
And now it's 9-6 Pirates. I think the wind might be blowing out the thing tonight.
You think here?
Josh Palacios hit a 3-run homer in that game for Pittsburgh. Kid. 2-1 to Bell with 2 out, nobody on. And he fouls that one back on the cutter for Morelli, and it's 2-2. Coming up on Honda Sports Night tonight after the post-game show, all football news as the Jets get set to play the Pats, and all the day in baseball with some crazy races. Everybody in the AL West won. Houston, Seattle, Texas. The Astros stay a half game up on both Seattle and Texas. So the Blue Jays need to win to stay a game ahead of the Mariners and Rangers in the wild card race. And Toronto leads the Yankees 2-0 in the 8th. Kevin Gausman started that game for Toronto.
See if Brooks can get out of this. And, just low.
Full count. Brian Dela Cruz will be next. Smokes that one toward the left field corner. He's got his second extra base of the night. So he had a home run batting left-handed.
2-out double.
Double batting right-handed. And the Marlins have their 8th hit of the game.
He's a better right-hand hitter than left-hand hitter. He turns on that little cutter.
So 2 out, a runner at second for Brian De La Cruz, who singled and scored back in the 4th. Each team now with 8 hits tonight. De La Cruz swings at the back foot slider, nothing on. For Bickford to work in the Mets bullpen. Ball is strike to De La Cruz. Yuli Gurriel is out on deck to pinch hit for Jesus Sanchez. That's why Bickford's getting up. Now a right-hander available to face Gurriel. You got another right-hand hitter, Hampson, behind him. It's fouled away by De La Cruz. And really trying to end the inning right here. Add 1 and 2. The Brewers' magic number for clinching the NL Central is 6. They lead the Cardinals tonight 4-1 in the 7th. In the AL East, Baltimore lost to Houston this afternoon, but the Rays looks like they won't take advantage. The Angels lead the Rays 8-3 in the 8th. Baltimore started the day 2.5 up on Tampa Bay. Big team's already in the postseason. Houston came back. They were down 1-0 in the 8th. And came back and won that game late in the 8th. And then Mauricio Dubon had the walk-off hit in the 9th. Then won 2-1. Slider runs inside. It's 2-2. To De La Cruz. And he lines one to center field.
And that's a base hit. Runner's going to be held up at third, first and third, 2 outs.
2 out hits for the Marlins. They've got runners in the corners with 2 out. Yuli Gurriel coming up to pinch hit. And we'll see if puck goes to the right-hander.
This ball with a fastball, it just didn't sink, stayed right up and down the middle.
Gurriel is announced as the pinch hitter. Buck's going to stay with Raleigh, would appear.
Brooksy.
Maybe not. Sending Narvaez out to kill some time. They may need more time for Bickford to be ready. Buck's heading toward the stairs. Yeah, here he comes.
Buck's going to take out Raleigh.
So he bought a few extra pitches for Bickford in the bullpen. And he'll go to the right-hander to face Gurriel with 2 men on.
All right, guys. So Bickford's going to be coming into the ball game. 5-run lead for the Mets. First and second, 2 outs for the Marlins. Nice to get a victory here and take 2 out of 3 against the Marlins. Again, both wildcard races are going to come down to the end for sure. Yeah, easy. I mean, we say that now, and I agree. The bullpen needs to get fixed too. But the problem with fixing the bullpen is that every year it's a crapshoot. Like, let's be honest. Like, you can have a great bullpen this year and bring back the same bullpen next year and not be as good. Now, they got to improve it, no doubt about that. But I do think you still need a good rotation, right? Look at the National League. I talked about this earlier. Look at the rotations in the National League. What rotation are you afraid of? You would think you would be more afraid of the Padres rotation, and they might not even make the playoffs. They probably have one of the better rotations in baseball. And they're probably not even going to make the playoffs. And they've been one of the best. And the teams that are going to be in the playoffs, look at the Dodgers. They probably ran through like 11 pitchers this year in the rotation. Their rotation's in shambles. Yet they're going to win the NL West. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're one of the favorites to win the World Series. So, well, easy, yeah, but they had a good year last year. There's 2 things that you're going to have. You're going to have Brooks Raley, I think, has another year on his contract, so he's going to be here. And Edwin Diaz is going to come back. That's going to help, right? We'll see. Ottavino, I think, has a player option or a team option. I'm not sure. It's an option for sure. I don't know which one it is. But I think Ottavino is going to be back next year. I think Ottavino is going to be better with Diaz coming back. I think it's gonna help him out because he's not going to be in big situations as much as he was this year. So bottom of the 8th, 3-7-2 Mets. First and third, 2 outs for the Marlins. Let's see if Bickford can get out of this inning with no damage done.
And the Marlins come up empty-handed. So Bickford in to face Yuli Gurriel misses away with his first fastball. Bickford worked a 1-2-3 inning on Monday night. Comes in here with first and third and 2 out. Gurriel's second plate appearance in the series. He grounded out last night in the ninth inning, and he takes a fastball that he thought was off the plate that's called a strike by Kodai Senga. Bell, the runner at third, De La Cruz at first with 2 down. Slider off the plate, 2-1. Well, struck out the first 2 batters of the inning, Chisholm and Edwards, but then couldn't put away Bell, who doubled, and De La Cruz also with 2 strikes on him, and a base into center field. And it's bounced straight back by Gurriel. Victor keeps the ball away from him. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Gurriel has seen his playing time diminish since the acquisition of Josh Bell at the trading deadline. Bell's got most of the reps at first base. Gurriel's now 39 years old. 2-2 coming, and he just got a piece of that fastball away. Gurriel won a batting title with the Astros 2 years ago when he had 319, but tailed off last year at just 242. And he's had a similar year this year in his first year in Miami. 2-2 coming, and the slider off.
0-3.
Full count. Aaron Hampson, the on-deck batter. Alonso's going to keep holding against De La Cruz. Because he's been working Gurriel away. And he takes one toward the middle, and that's a base
hit. Run scores. Runner goes to third. 7-3. First and third, 2 outs for the Marlins.
It's now 7-3 New York. Everything away from Bickford to Gurriel, and Gurriel takes it right back up the middle. Soft liner up the middle, off the end of the bat. Ball was off the plate, but up.
Not a bad pitch. But when you throw nothing inside and it's all outside, the batter's going to expect that.
Now, first and third, still 2 out. Here's Hampson. Marlins need one more base runner to get the tying run to bat. And Hampson takes a slider outside for ball 1. Hampson has walked, delivered a sac fly, and taken a call third strike. 0 for 1 in this game.
0-2.
Bickford has now thrown 9 pitches, and they've all been outside corner or further out to the right-hand batter. Good fastball. 2 balls and a strike. Mets playing a deep outfield. I'm in agreement. Hampson lines one. Caught.
Oh, nice play by Mauricio to end the inning. Nice catch by Mauricio up the middle to end the inning. Hit that ball hard, but Mauricio saves a run and saves the inning from continuing. So, top of the ninth, Mets lead 7-3. 4-run lead. Mets will have up 1-2-3. Nimmo, Mauricio, and Alonso. Excuse me. So, after today, Mets will have 10 games left. Play 4 against the Phillies starting tomorrow. And then play the Marlins again. And then end the season with the Philadelphia Phillies at home to end this miserable 2023 season for the Mets. Yeah, I like Mauricio at second base. I really like Mauricio at second base. It's going to be very interesting. Again, you got Vientos, Beatty, and Mauricio, and McNeil. 4 guys for 2 spots. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets decide to put Jeff McNeil in left field and play Mauricio at second, and then figure out what you're going to do at third. Either give Beatty and Vientos, and I'll make both of them try to win the job in spring. That's the way I see it. I don't know what you guys think. But we'll see. Long way away from that. We got to see how the roster is constructed. Because besides Ohtani, I don't know where the Mets are going to go offensively, to be honest. I think it's going to be a very big pitching offseason for the Mets. They obviously they got to fill a rotation. They got to fix the bullpen. So we'll see. Well, easy. I mean, the bullpen was priority this season too, this offseason as well. Problem is, Diaz got hurt and put everything into shambles.
Up here at Hampson moves to right field. And Nimmo clocks one to deep right.
And Nimmo might have hit a home run, and it's gone. Leadoff home run for Brendan Nimmo. 24th home run of the season, 8-3 Mets. Get that run right back. There we go.
Another 3-hit game for Nimmo, his second in a row. 24 home runs, 63 runs batted in. That'll put a smile on your face. 7 for 14 in this series.
Nimmo's had a great series.
Nimmo is really finishing the season strong.
Fifth home run for the Mets. Four. Excuse me. Where's it up? Well, I thought I'd give him one. Maybe more.
Mauricio pops one up. Birdie in the foul ground.
One out.
Retires Mauricio for the first out. Who got the ball? A Marlins fan and a Cubs fan. Cubs, by the way, now trail the Pirates 11-6 in the bottom of the sixth. And Wrigley knows how many runs he scored in that game. Pete Alonso's driven in 2 runs tonight. Now it's 114 RBIs. It's the 13th time in Mets history that anybody's reached 114 RBIs, and 3 of those 13 belong to Alonso. Carlos Delgado, Mike Piazza, David Wright each did it twice. He plays off the slider for Cueto, 2 balls and a strike. The Mets have had 4 home runs tonight. Marlins have used 6 different pitchers. Off the fist.
Ground ball should be 2 outs, and it is.
And throws out Alonso 2 away. Cueto came on in relief in the 8th, gave up a home run to Beatty, and now a home run to Nimmo. In only his 4th career relief outing. In the 9th, the Marlins will have 8, 9, and 1 on the order. Birdie, Stallings, and Soler coming up. Pickford's asked to finish the game after closing out that 8th inning. As Lindor is not 0 for 4 tonight. It's the 7th time this year the Mets have hit 4 or more home runs. And they're going to Philadelphia, which is the place where they seem to hit the most home runs. That's the club record back in 2015 when they hit 8 home runs in 1 game at Citizens Bank Park. That's be facing a lefty tomorrow night, Ranger Suarez, who hasn't had many wins, but has been pitching well lately. David Peterson will go tomorrow night. They'll face their old buddy Taiwan Walker Friday night. That's lined into right field.
And that's a base hit.
In a day. Keeps the doctor away.
That's a little cutter, wanted the back door, and it was right down the pipe.
Cubs just got to run back. It's now 11-7 Pirates.
Maybe one of those games.
Freaking Cubs and Pirates game is insane. Runs and runs and runs.
Neal, who's made his biggest impact defensively tonight. He's gone 0 for 3 on a walk at the plate. And he lifts this one out to left. That goes.
And McNeil hits a fly ball, and that ends the inning. So the Mets get that run back again from a Nimmo solo home run. 8-3 Mets going to the bottom of the ninth. Last licks for the Marlins. So the Mets have shown their power tonight. Nimmo's had a good night. Vientos had a good night. Beatty showed some power today. 4 home runs for the Mets tonight against the Marlins. Sorry, my cat Shay is hanging out today. So, Mets get a chance to win a series in Miami. The Mets have actually dominated the Marlins this season. Remember, at the beginning of the season, they faced them 7 times in the first 10 games. They were 6-1. I mean, they dominated the Marlins this season. Unfortunately, they didn't dominate anybody else, unfortunately. So that sucks for us, but and yeah, Alien, the Cubs aren't going away quietly. But Cubs are trying to hang on for dear life in the wild card. Again, it's going to be very interesting to see the last couple of games of the season because both in the American League and the National League, there's like 3 to 4 teams trying to stay alive and trying to get those wild card spots. So we'll wait for the commercial to end, and we get the bottom of the ninth. 5-run lead for the Mets. Bottom of the order for the Marlins, 9-1-2 in the ninth. Here we go, guys.
For the series in Philadelphia, couple of lefties tomorrow night. Old friend Taiwan Walker Friday, old friend Zach Wheeler Saturday. Christopher Sanchez, another lefty, goes on Sunday. That's will have everybody in line. Peterson, McGill,
I mean, you just look at the Phillies rotation. Even Zach Wheeler, who's having probably their best pitcher, is a 3.65 ERA, and he's their ace. It's it just shows you like just. All right, Trevor Gott is up for the Mets in the ninth.
So, great Sarah Langs did a little further research on Met having 2 outfield assists in 1 inning and found one more instance. It's hit out to right field and
should be the first out, and it is 1 out.
Makes the catch. So McNeil had 2 assists in 1 inning. Bernard Gilkey, we mentioned, did it in 1996, and Sarah reports that in the first game in Mets history, in 1962, April 11th in St. Louis, Gus Bell had 2 outfield assists in the 3rd inning of the first game in the history of the franchise. Wow. And now McNeil becomes the 3rd player ever to accomplish that feat. Jacob Stallings with 1 out.
Did they open up on the road that?
Yes. Opened up in St. Louis. They were rained out the first day. They got stuck in an elevator and almost didn't make it to the ballpark. Forest Park Hotel for the actual game itself. One of the Stallings, who's gone 0 for 3, flat out, struck out, grounded into a double play.
That's where he got stuck.
Jorge Soler, the on-deck batter. Let's see how many more runs have been scored in that game since we last checked. No, nobody scored since the last check. Still Pirates 11, Cubs 7. And a ground ball for Lindor.
Should be the second out, and it is.
Stallings, and just like that, the Marlins are down to their final out of the night. Well, the Phillies won this afternoon, beat the Braves. Diamondbacks won, beat the Giants. The Cubs are trailing. The Marlins are trailing. The Reds lost. The Giants lost. And if you want to factor the Padres in, they won. So if the Cubs lose, the Pirates would be 4.5 out. Yep. Does that make them still in it? I guess it does make them still in it. But they can't lose. Yeah, win every game and hope for some help.
They've got St. Louis coming in, San Francisco, and the White Sox.
A favorable schedule, and they've certainly got the talent to do it.
The Giants are the team that really got the tough schedule.
The Giants getting swept by Arizona this week, that puts a fork in them. But then again, they're only 3 games out if the Cubs lose today, so maybe the fork is premature.
Yep.
2-1 to Soler, who's had 2 hits and a walk today. He flies that one foul, and down the Marlins are
Down to the final strike.
Well, Trevor Gott is on the verge of doing something that the Mets have not done since the 4th inning last night, and that is retired the side in order. 2-2 to Soler, and he gets jammed and fouls it off. Kodai Senga went 6, allowed 2 runs, 7 hits. He's now second in the National League in ERA at 2.96, in line for his 12th win of the year. Drew Smith pitched a scoreless inning. Brooks Raley got tagged for a run in 2/3 of an inning. Bickford a third of an inning, and Gott trying to finish 2-2. And it's inside.
Just inside.
To Soler with Jazz Chisholm.
No need to walk him.
On deck.
Throw it over the plate.
From Gott to Soler. He bloops one foul. Keep on going.
Throwing that slider. Jesus Christ. Throw a fastball over the plate. Jesus Lord.
That's will have 10 more games after today. 7 of the 10 against the Phillies. The other 3 against these Marlins. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at Citi Field.
Well, there's Steve hanging out.
8th pitch of the at-bat, and Soler takes...
Got him!
The ball game is over.
Strike 3 called, and the Mets win the series against the Marlins and take game 3, 8-3. Mets are going to head to Philadelphia for 4 games. Going to see 2 old friends in Walker and Wheeler. So, Mets win 8-3, take 2 out of 3, and become spoilers once again. And find their ways flying out of Miami, basically dominating the season series against the Marlins. They still got 3 more against the Marlins, but they played the Marlins extremely well this year. So, Mets win 8-3. Now the Mets head to Philadelphia, and we'll see how that goes going forward. So, with that said, guys, nice game, 4 home runs for the Mets. First multi-home run game for Mark Vientos. Nimmo hit a home run. Nimmo Vientos hit a home run. Nice to see. And we'll see what the Mets can do in Philadelphia. So with that said, everybody have a great night. Mets win 8-3. As always, Mets fans, let's go Mets. I'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night.
Everybody's coming down to meet the M.E.T.S. Mets of New York town, of New York town. Meet the Mets, step right up.